Way to their seats, please. We're going to get our program started here in just a couple of minutes. 2-minute warning. Hey, as we're finding our seats, just for clarification, if you are an elected official or city county staff, you should have a seat in the U up here. So please, elected officials and staff, please make your way up to the U-shaped tables up here. We'll get started in just a moment. Well, that was amazingly quick. Thank you, guys. Everybody's ready to do some business this morning. Well, let me officially welcome you to our 4th annual Economic Summit presented by your Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce. My name is O.E. Burke, and I have the pleasure of serving as your Chamber's board chairman for this year. I want to, on behalf of the staff, on behalf of the Chamber board, and the over 560 members of your Chamber that represent thousands of local families in our community, thank you for taking the time to be here today. This is a really important annual event. We're excited to have your attention, your involvement. We hope it'll be both productive and informative at the same time. So I want to kick our program off this morning. Our event is presented by our wonderful Advent Health, and we have Dr. Dennis Hernandez from Advent Health here, the CEO of the new Smyrna Beach Hospital. I'd like to invite him up to start us off with a prayer, a pledge, and a brief word. So please welcome Dr. Hernandez.
I was only giving one instruction, and then I was giving 4, so I can only remember 3. But, great to see you all. If you don't mind, bow our heads for a word of prayer. Lord Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the many blessings that you continue to give us, to shower us with. I ask that your presence be felt here today as this group of leaders discuss how we continue to serve our community, to grow with our community, and provide the services that everyone in this community needs. I asked a blessing for each of them and their families, and again, that your wisdom and discernment be with us today. I ask this in your name. Amen. If you wouldn't mind joining me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. That's step 2 of the 4 instructions that I was given. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be here. Really wonderful. A pleasure and an honor to participate in this 4th summit, economic summit for the Southeast Volusia County. As the largest employer in the Southeast Volusia County, Advent Health New Smyrna Beach is really proud to team up with the Southeast Volusia Chamber of Commerce and support our joint efforts towards common goals. And we know that our local leaders, each of you, all of us, really play a huge part in ensuring that our region thrives. And we at Advent Health New Smyrna Beach are committed to working alongside each of you to make sure that we find the best ways to serve our community and to promote growth. And I don't think this is anything new. Everyone knows that Florida was recently named the fastest growing state by the U.S. Census Bureau, and I think we're also experiencing the same right here in Volusia and the Southeast Volusia County. And the good news is that as an organization, Advent Health has really invested in significant expansion plans across the entire system, including growing with our community here in Southeast Volusia. Last year alone, we brought over 60 physicians and advanced practitioners to Volusia County, ranging in specialties from gastroenterology, urology, orthopedics, oncology, interventional cardiology, general surgery, and the list goes on. And as we continue to bring world-class clinical talent, we're seeing our programs really grow by leaps and bounds. And I think, or I hope, that many of you are aware that this year we brought the first robotic surgical technology to New Smyrna Beach. And that's just the beginning. There's a lot more to come. We also, in the last year, transitioned our cancer care services. And now, all cancer care treatments at New Smyrna Beach are provided by our very own Advent Health clinicians. And this is a first for the East Florida division. This is the first facility that we have the full spectrum of diagnosis, medical oncology, chemotherapy, radiation oncology, and actually even some surgical oncology, all of it provided locally by clinicians that are actually part of the nationally recognized Advent Health Cancer Institute. So we're very proud and excited about that. So again, as we grow and expand our support for our communities, one thing does remain at our core, and that's Advent Health strives to be the safest healthcare system in America, while also ensuring and helping all those that we serve feel whole, because that's our brand promise. And this is a very intentional, focused goal for the entire system. We're actually very proud that as an organization, in our commitment to clinical excellence has been recognized by leading national institutions. Just this last spring, Advent Health New Smyrna Beach received an A score for patient safety. This is by the Leapfrog Group, which is a independent, third-party, nationally recognized organization that rates hospitals from an A to an F. So something really that we're proud of and that we're celebrating. Obviously, we could not have done this without the commitment of our team members to continue our culture of safety and becoming a high reliable organization. Additionally, and I'm going to have to read this because I don't remember all the words here, but we at Advent Health New Smyrna Beach earned the prestigious Pathway to Excellence designation. And you wonder what that is. And it is an honor, though, because there's only less than 200 hospitals worldwide that actually have received this honor. And it's a long process with application and surveys and so forth, but it is a program that encourages nurses to be empowered and engaged in patient care decisions while also supporting each other's wellness, involvement in making continuous improvements in shared decision-making, leadership, safety, quality, well-being, and professional development, and so forth. So very proud and excited for that. We're also making great strides in the delivery of care in our emergency department. And I just heard some stories of some of you. Fortunately, they were all very good. but that you had visited our emergency department and the great experience that you had there. And I have to tell you that our emergency department right here in New Smyrna Beach in 2023 ranked the #1 emergency department in patient satisfaction in the entire company that is composed of 52 plus hospitals across the country. So we're extremely excited about that, and they continue to do a great job, still remaining in the top rank in our division, in the state of Florida, and again across the country. All of these are just some of the recognitions, but all of this basically just reflecting the exceptional work that our team members do on a day-to-day basis, their passion, their commitment, their dedication to building a better, brighter future for the Southeast Volusia County. Now, our mission, no, not yet. 1 second. I'm almost done, don't worry. So our mission extends beyond the four walls of our hospitals. And I just want to end with, and is Mayor Cleveland here? Oh, right in front of me. See, I'm not wearing my glasses, Fred, sorry. But just want to end with a highlight of we're engaged in the community in many ways. We partner with a lot of organizations. We do a lot of work in the health equity space and so forth. But I just want to give some kudos to Fred, our mayor, because that was something that came from him, not us. And Mayor Cleveland approached us and said, hey, can you partner with the city to try to help us address the vulnerable population, specifically addressing the homelessness and obviously the mental health and substance abuse that kind of comes along with that. And obviously, if Fred says jump, we just say, how high? Sure, no problem, even though we met as an executive team and we were a little skeptical, like, okay, are we going to be able to make some inroads in this? Because we know across the country a lot of cities have tried to address this issue and really have not had a lot of success. But I can tell you that we are so excited. We had an initial meeting with the city, and then we actually were able to engage approximately 15 other stakeholders interested in working with us in addressing this. From SMA Healthcare to Volunteers in Medicine, we have physicians, telepsychiatry, and other organizations that address different areas such as shelter and food insecurity, personal care, and so forth. So we're in the infancy stages of this. We've created a cadence of meetings. We're creating subgroups within this large task force now to address the different aspects, and we're very positive and hopeful that we're going to make some good impact, Fred, in what you test us with. So thank you for bringing that up. With that, thank you to the Chamber for inviting us and participating here this morning, and we look forward to working together with you to continue to make things better in our community. And with that, we're ready for the video.
Extraordinary healthcare is much more than treating the sick and injured. It's about caring for the whole person, body, mind, and spirit, with compassion and faith. That's what we do at Advent Health. Since 1908, our special brand of care has been guided by our unique mission, extending the healing ministry of Christ. It informs every aspect of our care and our relationships with the communities we serve. As the largest hospital system in the area, the Advent Health East Florida Division includes facilities in multiple cities and more than 10,000 team members, including thousands of physicians and advanced practitioners. But our reach is much broader than that. We believe in the power of partnership to make a positive impact on the lives that need it most. We're dedicated to improving the overall health of the communities we serve. By making strategic investments of nearly $176 million annually in underserved and vulnerable populations, including advancing mental health initiatives and improving early childhood education. We strive to uplift our entire community through diverse health partnerships with local charities, schools and universities, and professional sports organizations, all designed to promote healthy living and wellness initiatives. Plus, we're focused on providing world-class care that adheres to our organization's unique service standards. Make it easy, keep me safe, own it, and love me. This mission, these values and service standards serve as the foundation for each of our caregivers to provide clinical excellence and loving support to every person, every day, and beyond.
Thank you, Dr. Hernandez, very much. Thank you, Advent Health. As I had the opportunity to attend your State of the Hospital event recently, and from the entire C-suite, the passion for what you do is evident. So I appreciate that and the general pursuit of excellence for healthcare in our community. So thank you for what you do for Southeast Volusia. Thank you very much. Well, let's get into it a little bit. I want to recognize some important folks before we get started here. Let's start with our Chamber of Commerce Board. If you're a Chamber Board member, would you mind just standing and raising your hand real quick? And let's give them a hand, Chamber Board members, the Chamber team. Thank you all for being here this morning. We've got some important folks in the U-shaped table in front of me. Rather than name every single one of you, I'd like to do so by team. So let's start with Team Volusia County. If you're staff or an elected for Team Volusia County, please stand and have a round of applause. Team Volusia County, thank you for being here today. Let's go to our friends in Oak Hill. Team Oak Hill, please stand and be recognized. Thank you for being here today. Moving up to Edgewater, Team Edgewater, staff and electeds, please stand and be recognized. Thank you for being here. And how about Team New Smyrna Beach? Please stand and be recognized. Thank you guys very much. Excited to have you. Look forward to hearing from you today. I know we've got Representative Tremont and Congressman Corey Mills that will be here today. I see one gentleman at the table. If anybody's here that I missed, please stand and be recognized. If not, we're going to hear from them, but it's going to be a little later in the agenda. They had another meeting this morning, so they're going to come when they can. Moving forward, it looks like the mayors got together and had a meeting to kind of discuss agenda for this, and it sounds like Mr. Mayor Cleveland drew the short straw because he was nominated to give the mayors welcome this morning. So let's bring Mayor Fred Cleveland of New Smyrna Beach up for the Southeast Volusia Mayor's welcome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, OE. It's so great to be here. To take a line from Dr. Hernandez, the power of our people and the power of our diversity. The tapestry of diversity we have in this room is going to help us with the roadmap and the blueprint, which is not already made. We're going to make it. We're going to invent it today, and we're going to take the first few steps. And as we have these conversations, we want your brain power. The beauty of this town is, and Southeast Volusia, is that we are a diverse group. We do have differences of opinions. Our life experiences have been different, and we've decided to come together and make Volusia County an economic powerhouse. And that's what we're about here today. And so I would encourage you to participate. Put your phones down, put your eyes up, put your brains on the target so that we can actually make a difference in what we're doing here today. And you will leave here enriched, I assure you. The mayors have gotten together with the planners of this event. Mr. Williams and the Chamber of Commerce have put their best efforts forward to make this the most meaningful summit we've had to date. And so the speakers you're going to hear today were thought of with purpose and with intention. And so we want you to get the most out of this and offer your suggestions, opinions, and thoughts about the direction we're heading so that this blueprint is your blueprint. This roadmap is something that your fingerprints are on, because that's the only way to get there and be successful about it. If you don't believe in it, it won't get there. If you believe in it, you'll be committed to it, and we will all get there together. You see the powerhouse we've got. We've got Advent Hospital. We've got many other participants here today. Their heart and soul, their business plan is in our community. That's got to make you feel really special, really good about the fact that so many people care about what we look like going forward. This is a transition time. This is a time for us to change the calculus from mostly residential to and very little business to increasing the business footprint and differentiating the tax base, which we all which weigh heavily on residents here. We want to make sure that we make a difference here today. Thanks for coming. I'm delighted to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of the agenda. I'd like to welcome Bob Williams to the podium. Bob serves on our Chamber Board of Directors. He's also the chair of our Economic Development and Advocacy Committee. So please welcome Bob.
Thank you very much, OE. And as the mayor said, we got the mayors and the city managers together. And as many of you know, especially on the board, how passionate I am about this community and the great opportunities that we have here. And I explained to them, I have got this great 2-hour presentation that I want to give. They're like, Bob, that ain't happening. And as I come in here, they slap this defibrillator on me, and Mayor Cleveland's got this button. So if you see me writhing on the floor, I've apparently gone too far. But they assured me it's probably not lethal. So we'll get started here. And as you've seen from your agenda, we're going to kick into the amazing work that we've done together in coming together around a consensus. And then just the list of accomplishments is longer than I can go into the detail in the time we have. But ultimately, it is about collaboration. This is our opportunity to really come together as a region, and the last 3 summits have shown how powerful that can be. We're glad to have several local business representatives here to talk about the quality of life elements of our community and how that impacts our economy. We're glad to have Team Volusia here to talk about what they need and what they're doing to help us recruit high-paying jobs to this area for our children and our friends and others. And then we're going to hear about possibly one of the most exciting opportunities that we have for the new future of our region. None of this would have been possible without an incredible list of partners dating back years. The list got so long we couldn't put it all on a slide, but the Southeast Volusia Manufacturing Technology Coalition, our Visit New Smyrna Ad Authority, the Canal Street Historic District, the Flagler Avenue Business Association, the Team Volusia, the county, the utilities, the housing, the list goes on, the CEO Business Alliance. Forgive me, I'm sure there are many of you that I didn't get a chance to mention, but this has been a true collaborative activity. So I just want to remind you in our strategic plan that we came together around some common goals. And it wasn't just the people who attended this summit. As you heard OE say, we're talking about over 500 businesses in the Chamber of Commerce, thousands of families that depend on those businesses, and the tens of thousands of residents that depend on the goods and services from those businesses. So fundamentally, how do we bring value-added, higher-paying jobs to our community? How do we diversify the tax base, as the mayor said? How can we ensure the wealth and resilience of our community and improve the quality of life for everyone? And let's make it clear, we got to connect the dots that our quality of life in retirement is directly related to having a vibrant business community. So part of the way that we're able to have a powerful impact is coming together as a geographic region in Southeast Volusia. Each of our cities and the county areas have unique assets and strengths, but we do share some things in common. And fundamentally, by coming together, we're able to position our region to compete for state and federal grant funding, and we're going to review a little bit about that as we go on. The strategic plan, I'll remind you, it's organized around 5 key objectives having to do with infrastructure, zoning and land use, education and workforce development, collaborating, and also making sure we have a resilient area to live in. At a past summit, you'll recall we had maps laying around here, and we asked you, where do you want us to grow with regard to jobs and capital investment by business? And there were several sites, but the primary area is west. You'll hear Mayor Cleveland talk about Old Town New Smyrna, Midtown New Smyrna, and New Smyrna, the new part of Newtown. And the same thing we see happening in Edgewater. And so we're going to hear more today about the exciting opportunities that we have there. We had 5 key objectives, and there are just too many accomplishments to list across that in infrastructure with stormwater and transportation. We're going to hear a lot about some new zoning on the west side today. In education and workforce, whether it's we're working with all of the schools in engineering, science and technology, and manufacturing. Our cities and county are partnering at a high level as best as it's ever been. And of course, from a resilience standpoint, a lot of us are focused on stormwater these days, along with a number of other things. In the last summit, you gave us direction to focus on industrial and commercial future land use. We're going to see some examples of that today. About public infrastructure projects, and the Utilities Commission has been a big part of that. We've been working on transportation and mobility. And also, I have to commend our staff from the various cities that they are giving a priority to helping bring these high-paying jobs and making sure that businesses know they are welcome. And it couldn't be possible without that. You gave us several top priorities, and you will see that whether it's future infrastructure planning, focusing on the commercial space opportunity that we have, and we're going to hear more from Team Volusia on that, as well as we grow, let's bring in some of the density and then leave green space and honor our environment. And you're going to hear about that today and see examples of that. We could have a whole hour-long presentation from Volusia County. I want to thank Mr. Rechtenwald and his team for being here. Clay, thanks for coming. Just a few highlights of things that they're doing to support our region. The Southeast Regional Wastewater Treatment Facility, over $25 million. The Indian Harbor Estates sewer retrofit, which is also going to help with our water quality, as well as the utility systems extension in Oak Hill. Also, I want to share about the Reasonable Assurance Plan, and we can't say enough about this. Is a perfect example 6 or 7 years ago where the region came together and said, what can we do as a region to have an impact? And so already with the county's assistance, the Gabordi Canal Stormwater Facility is done, the Ariel Canal, over $5 million. But the Reasonable Assurance Plan, not only being an example of what we can achieve by coming together, it shows how it puts us on the radar at the state and federal level. Just in December of 23, Governor DeSantis announced $100 million for the Mosquito Lagoon and Indian River, and $27 million of that is coming to Volusia County. And the county also, you need to understand, has played a key role in the future of our west side development with Williamson Boulevard. We're going to hear from the property owners who have provided an easement and donated the right-of-way. And the county is committed to prioritizing that utility infrastructure, as well as working with the landowner to create pad-ready sites, and this is where our opportunity right along I-95 to capitalize on the commercial space supply chain opportunity. One of the things, too, that is very powerful in our community is that tourism being such a major industry here, and our advertising authority, or our destination management organization, in their destination management master plan, they have recognized economic development and tourism, transportation and mobility, and helping to provide manufacturing, technology, and aerospace jobs in our community as being key, and they are a partner in that. If you think about how many businesses come here and they found out about this place because they came to visit on vacation as a tourist. In the economic development industry, that's called a familiarization tour. And many communities have to contrive reasons for business leaders to come, whereas we have this naturally beautiful place with a high quality of life. I also want to point out, and this notion of something called the golden triangle was coined by the past CEO of Space Florida, Frank DeBello. And if you, it goes from the Kennedy Center up to Embry-Riddle University and over to the Center for Modeling, Simulation, and Training at UCF. We are right in the middle of that. And so we're going to hear more from Team Volusia this morning about some of the exciting things going on there. But I also want to make it clear that this is about the entire community and why we all moved here, and the recognition of the quality of life that we have here, our climate, our coastal community, our downtowns, the multidisciplinary arts that we're going to hear more about. This high quality lifestyle is fundamental to our strategy and our future for also bringing high-paying jobs to the area. All of these business people that are here, we live here too, and we value why we live here. That being said, if any of you attended the Visit New Smyrna annual meeting, you'll recall hearing from Dr. Sean State, the world-class economist. And this slide is from him showing, and myself being a second-generation Floridian, we know that Florida is going to grow. We heard 1,000 people a day are continuing to move to Florida, and Southeast Volusia has been discovered. So our goal, and that is not intended to change. There's nothing we're going to be able to do to stop that. But we can work together to plan for this inevitable growth and how we want it to happen in a quality way. We do that acknowledging that there are positive impacts. We've talked about a number of those, but we know there are going to be challenges that we're going to have to work together on. And so we're working on transportation. We're working upon good quality housing solutions, as well as the infrastructure that we need to accommodate that. And by bringing together the community like we are today so that we have a master plan, that is going to help us to avoid that ad hoc development and instead have a long-term, high-quality growth that's coordinated, that's efficient, that takes into a diverse set of perspectives and how we want it to look, and make sure that we maximize our sustainability and resilience. And at the end of the day, it makes room for our friends and family to come. 50 years ago, when I moved to New Smyrna, many of the places that many of us now live didn't even exist. And it's going to be that way in the future going forward. We just need to do it in a quality way. I also want to point out that this can be done in a way that preserves our character and authenticity. Look at Savannah. Look at Charleston. They've used coastal and waterfront community smart growth principles that allow them to grow and prosper and still maintain their character and authentic heritage. That is our goal. What can we do? By having a master plan and helping to lay the groundwork for pre-staged infrastructures, road and stormwater, That's the way we can get ready for this, and we're going to hear some more today about that. Make sure we keep sustainability and resilience at the top, but at the same time build on our strengths. Here we are just north of the Kennedy Space Center and at the nexus of I-95 and I-4. We can make sure that businesses know they're welcome here if they've got clean, high-paying jobs. Now, I'm not going to take you through all of these points, but if you look at the vision statements on the 3 city websites, on the Chamber website, on Space Florida, for example, you can quickly realize that there's something in common with all of us, that we all want a high quality of life. We all want to preserve our historic authenticity, and we want economic vitality. We'll be asking you in a little bit, to what extent you might want to elaborate on that. But apparently, since I'm not writhing on the ground, I did manage to get done in time. So we're going to now transition. One of the things that we were asked is, let's get in some discussion and engagement going early on in this session. And so what we're going to do now is transition into the roundtable discussion. And with that, OE, I'm going to ask you to come up, and the Chamber staff is going to be helping us with some technology.
Well, thank you, Bob, for that overview. So we're going to kind of roll into the meat and potatoes discussion with our electeds here today, our electeds and staff. Give us just a second while we do a mic turn on for everybody at the tables here.
Yes, we're going to use some technology here to spur the conversation, but fundamentally, we want to hear from you. This is your meeting. Because of the Florida Sunshine Law, it's very hard for you all to get together, and so we've jumped through all of the hoops to enable that. You do have this is all in the sunshine for the public record, and so we're going to attempt to use some technology here where you're going to be able to use your cell phones to give us some keywords or phrases that you want to talk about. And I will share with you, this is open to the public as well, so you are welcome to participate. And so what we would like you to do is go to minty.com. Minty. No, it's minty.com. Okay. So if you go to minty.com on your browser, and you will be asked to enter a code which is going to tie you into this Q&A session. The code is 69693985. So if you want to give that a shot, can somebody volunteer to tell me that they were able to do that and they were able to get it? Okay, I see some hands going up. Minty.com.
Put the number back up there, please, sir.
Yeah, hold on
Okay.
a second.
We're coming back to the code.
Spell it again, please.
Yep, we're going to show you the code here in just a second. The code number is 69693985.
Hey, Bob.
Yep.
Can you spell that? M-I-N-T-Y and the end? What are you talking
M-E-N-T-I. MENTI.com. And the number is 69693985. And it looks like you guys are jumping on. Okay. Anybody help? And it looks like we have like 7. All right. Should we go to our first question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I thought twice.
Stephanie, are you ready? Okay. All right. Let's give our first question a try. Let's see what happens. Please select which city you reside in. And we have New Smyrna, Edgewater, Oak Hill, or if you're in unincorporated in the county, or if you're here from somewhere else. We do accept other cities in County, Matt. Thank you. We're glad you're here. And let's see. Well, there we go. Okay. 41 people from New Smyrna, 10 from Edgewater, 5 from Oak Hill, and 22 from other. All right. Thank you all for sharing that information. And so the next question is, what do you value the most about your quality of life in Southeast Volusia? And this is what's called a word cloud response in the system. And you can see as people are entering things, what they're saying. Community seems to be a popular one. As more people enter the same word, it gets bigger on the screen. So our natural environment, the peaceful environment, the environment is up there, our natural resources. We're supportive of small businesses, our coastal proximity to the ocean, the residents. We've got a great community, the serenity of the area, our outdoor activities, great people. And that was 81 responses. And for you elected officials, we're capturing all of this. You're going to get this information for your further deliberation as well. Okay. Are we ready to move along? All right. What collaborative opportunities do we have to reach our regional economic goals? Now we're really getting into the meat of it. And I encourage you to enter things, because what we plan to do before we go on to the next question is we're going to open it up to you all to talk about which of these things that you would like to zero in on. And this isn't a word cloud. This is open-ended, so you can enter phrases or whatever you want. And again, we're going to be capturing this. And we will kind of, and once you've entered your thoughts, then we will scroll back and forth through this. And I would like you to think of, what would you like to talk a little bit more about between, within your city, between your city, with the county team that's here. And let's see if we can drill down a little bit more on some of these areas. Well, let's give that some thought. Okay. All right, well, let's go back to the top, and then let's scroll down slowly, and everybody kind of be scanning that. And then I'd like to pick a topic that you all would like to drill down on. Figured infrastructure would be part. A lot of people are talking about going after aerospace and aviation. shared goals and master plans, working together, the collaboration, partnerships, municipal collaborations, helping to grow the commercial tax base. Partnerships, definite theme, aviation, aerospace. Continuing to grow our infrastructure, strategic planning. Okay. Some thoughts from our team around the table. Don't be shy.
Bob, perhaps you could put George Reckenwald on the spot as one of the most valuable players and has a community-wide reach. And not only what we're going to do, but what the county's already doing to pull us all together and develop economically.
Well, I think we started with you have to have the infrastructure in place to do that. See, we're making large investments in the southeast. And it's kind of a borrow a phrase, the guy next to me here, win-win situation. We're cleaning up the lagoon, but also using the same technologies to be in place for if industry were to come. You'll have utilities that are needed when they look at our area. One of the first things they want to know is, what do you have for utilities and where are they? And of course, you can't have a line to nowhere, so that's why we're expanding our plant, and we'll have plenty of capacity, and it'll have the most modern, advanced wastewater treatment systems in place. So the other part, of course, is transportation. You saw earlier, we worked with the Utilities Commission. We have an alignment through the commission property, which connects the northern end of Pioneer Trail, the southern down at Road 44, and now we have an alignment also in place moving down to 442 in Edgewater. So we'll have partnerships with development that'll help build those roads, and there is a little gap. The issue probably will be in the utility area, because that'll be a little bit different as far as partnerships. But we, again, we see that as a reliever to I-95 and a great place to locate commercial properties and industrial properties.
Thank you. Good comment. Other thoughts on that?
Well, I'll just mention, we're growing in Southeast Volusia, and right now my only location is just across the street. We've got 7 locations, or 7 clerks that operate. I know and Glenn's probably about to talk about this a little later, but we're growing, and we're about to grow by leaps and bounds. And one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that the things that we do, the 3 main things that we do in our office: property tax collection, driver's licenses, and motor vehicle. We want to make it easy for the residents, citizens, and taxpayers of Volusia County to be able to get in and out. So we're trying to work with, definitely the city of Edgewater, the city of New Smyrna Beach, and make sure that we have a good location to be able to provide those services. And, again, all the growth that we're about to see specifically in industry and, just residential, that we're able to serve them, get them in and out and onto their day. So we're working on that. So just wanted to let you know from our perspective, that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Bob. I think a lot of people are on the same page. The space industry that we have is, that's key for high-paying jobs. And I think that's the low-hanging fruit, and I think that's the best opportunity for high-paying jobs, which the community has spoke about for many decades. Collaboratively, how we deal with that is our growth network of roads to get in and out, and the infrastructure that has been mentioned by George and others. The question I have is, I recently read or saw something about how Homestead in South Florida and MacDill in Tampa is going to start launching rockets. So I didn't know what that meant for us, and whether or not, and if they are going to do that, we got to get our act together and move as quickly as possible. But this is really a three-pronged approach between New Smyrna, Edgewater, and Oak Hill, and I think is the best opportunity we have to bring in the jobs. Now, in terms of the three cities with Deering Park or restoration in these areas, when we start talking about how we develop these communities, and we're doing that right now, working on a development agreement for Deering Park, how does that translate to Edgewater? How does that translate to Oak Hill? The residential is what it is, but when we talk about the light industrial and we talk about the commercial, what does that actually mean, and how does New Smyrna, Edgewater, and Oak Hill complement each other, and how do we build the necessary infrastructure to get, there's a misunderstanding that government or cities determine what growth happens. That's really not how it goes. We create land development regulations, and then people come in, we get commercial development. But being able to harness what the space industry needs and how the three cities can then complement each other and work on each MDA together, ours in our city, Edgewater in their city, Oak Hill in their city, on how we can market the whole area, market the whole area in a collaborative effort to help determine how that is going to grow for the future.
Great comments. Edgewater, one of the things, and I think Glenn Storch is going to touch on this, is that Williamson corridor, there is an intent for that mixed our team want to comment on that? Sam, you're elected.
The city of Edgewater has been working for many, many years, and we've gone through and we've revised some of our plan unit development agreements, and we've really looked at, Deering Park and their team. They're putting together a master utility plan for that area and working very closely. We're doing pretty much bi-weekly meetings at this point and getting ready for that development. And I still believe, when I was at the Chamber of Commerce back in 2012 and we went to the cabinet to get that approved, and the Audubon Society said this is the best way and this is how development should be done in the state of Florida. With that many acres put aside in conservation, that's really smart growth, and that's what we're talking about here. It's talking about sustainability and being resilient for the future, and that balance of bringing those businesses in and having great high-paying jobs, having people living here and enjoying not only the quality of life, but also being able to afford to live here as well. So like you said, it's a three-pronged approach, just as Mr. Jason said, so.
Thank you, Bob. So 6 years ago, we had 415 acres off of Highway 1 out in Oak Hill, and we missed an opportunity from that standpoint because the aerospace went from us, Oak Hill, to Cape Canaveral and that area. So this isn't anything new that Homestead is doing. We've been facing this for 6 years. I was on economic development for 4 years. So this land got rezoned, and we missed the opportunity for aerospace. Now it's what? Subdivisions. I don't know. It got rezoned from light industry or industry to back to residential from ag. So I don't really understand that, but I know that happened. So to say that we're not moving fast enough, this has been going on for 6 years that I know, longer, as Samantha just said. We've been facing these zoning battles for a long time. And one of the things that we're seeing now is that we're trying to do Deering Park, but we see all of this negativity on next door because of the recent floods we had. People in our community equate right growth and smart growth and business opportunities to flooding now. So it's going to even be harder than ever. So we must educate through Nextdoor and these social platforms and get the misconceptions off, because these are happening, and this stuff has been happening for 6 years. I've been watching it right under my eyes.
Hey, Bob, to follow up on Commissioner Perrine's comments, I'd love to hear from one of the masterminds of the economic development out to the west, the balance of how you don't wreck the city and disturb the amazing cultural community that we have, this coastal environment, but you build for the future is a delicate balance. Our city manager, Mr. Rashadat, I think has a vision about how that we can put that together. And so, Khalid, would you please help educate the rest of us for what this balance is and what this would mean to go west, the greenfield we have, et cetera?
Well, good morning. Just want to follow up on Vice Mayor Perrine. Unfortunately, it's a lot of the negatives come out from development overall. And I don't think we have done a good job of educating the public on smart growth and smart. So what happens is economic development in terms of creating So it's been since I've been with the city, we're talking about creating a regional industrial park for the Southeast Volusia. But the challenges are, it's the environment. Environmentally, it's sensitive areas around the city of New Smyrna Beach, Edgewater, and Oak Hill as well. However, I think if it's done right, like example right now we have, and you will see later on for Deering Park. This development, they were going to do residential area and multifamily homes. We have approached them to see if there's a possibility of having an industrial park in this area. So what happened is, as everybody knows, Team Volusia was created some time back. And so when big companies, they wanted to come to Southeast Volusia, what is the biggest challenge that they face? The biggest challenge is getting approval for their project. And if you look around, city of New Smyrna Beach, Edgewater, and most of the cities in Southeast Volusia and even North Volusia, the biggest challenge is getting approval for the project. Because then what happened is residents, they come out because they don't want any development. So when we're having an industrial park that is designed to have a pad ready, where we meet all the environmental requirements and regulations and guidelines. So these big companies, when they come in to create, they're moving into New Smyrna or Edgewater or Oak Hill, they don't have to deal with all the approvals. The approvals are already done. All they have to do is get a building permit. So if we wanted to move economic development and have a diverse tax base in Southeast Volusia, there is no other areas to do that besides going out west of 95 on the south side. It's the biggest area we have at this point. We have almost 500 acres that we could create a 5-star industrial park. And the vision that we have is that we want, when you come into this industrial park, I want somebody to say, wow, I mean, this is what we have. I want it to be a 5-star that we could attract big companies with high-paying job from different states to move to Southeast Volusia. But it could be done as long as we have stormwater management system. I know what happened in Venetian Bay, but just keep in mind, the Ian storm was 21 inches of rainfall that we had. 21 inches. That's just uncalled for. And it's not gonna happen every year. It could happen next year, but the point is, we cannot design a system that will handle 21 inches. I mean, that will be impossible. So, I want to go back to Vice Mayor. I think the education part is important, to educate our residents on smarter growth and the diverse tax base, because I don't think any city could afford to keep raising the millage in taxes. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're going to try to mitigate the microphone problem. So I'm going to be running. Apparently, we exceeded the number of microphones we could have. Matt, did you want to say something before here? And I forgot to say, these tent cards are kind of small. Not everybody can see. So if you would introduce yourself when you speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Matt Reinhardt, Volusia County Council District 2. Our district is just outside of this, obviously, but what I'm about to talk about affects this area and where those individuals will live. As many of you know about Boeing coming into the area. We talked about aerospace being a key player in this and the economic development of Volusia County. Boeing coming in producing 400 plus jobs. These are high paying jobs. And they say, well, it's just Boeing. It has to start somewhere. If y'all remember years ago, Embry-Riddle, where they're going, was a very small university or very small school. I won't even classify it as a university down in Miami when we brought them up here, and look where it's gone now. So we're at the beginning stages, I think. I think this is, the door is opening up. So with Boeing comes others. Boeing is a big player in the aeronautical industry. So I just wanted to point that out. Those individuals we want to keep those individuals working here, living here, playing here, and that's key to our economic development. Bringing big, huge businesses like that in the aerospace industry is vital.
And for those of you that may not have heard, this is a research and development division of Boeing announced they're moving into the research park at Embry-Riddle, 400 scientists and engineers. And whether you're talking about Silicon Valley or Research Triangle or the Beltway, when you start to get a critical mass of talent, that attracts other companies. And again, our proximity to that university and to the Space Center, we're right in the middle of that. But again, that building was already under development when they chose to move there. If you've just got cows, you're not going to be competitive. Other thoughts about that?
Jack? Thanks, Bob. Mayor, thank you. City Manager Rashat, thank you so much. You guys are rock stars, and we definitely at the county love the direction that New Smyrna Beach is going. But one thing I'd like to talk about real quick that I haven't heard just yet that I think is very important, besides being clean, being a healthy environment in a healthy area, but it's also being safe, right? It's something that I've took pride in, Councilman Johansson, Councilman Reinhardt as well, the county manager, is providing record funding for our law enforcement, our first responders, our fire, because people have to feel safe to come here. Businesses have to know that their assets and everything that they've worked for is obviously protected. So at the county, when I tell you it's record funding, it's been double digits every year. We're seeing a huge, huge, huge difference. Anything from morale to people coming here from across the country to work here in Volusia County. Something else that we're really proud of too, Clay Irvin in our growth resource management has been working closely with the county council. We have an upcoming budget workshop that's going to be, we're going to be addressing several issues when it comes to the years and years and years of red tape and these inhibitors that kind of deter businesses possibly from wanting to come here is regulation. We see it at national level, state level. The only way, in my opinion, that we can further go in the right direction in terms of getting industry and commercialization here is getting government out of the way and actually doing it. And just so the folks know, this council is working diligently to do that and opening up the absolute unleashing the potential of our local economy and getting our local businesses taken care of and also trying to get businesses here. So thank you guys very much. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, let me underscore that. As the Chamber of Commerce has worked with the city officials, working with the private sector, we're very blessed in this community. But whether it's the county or Edgewater or New Smyrna Beach, Oak Hill, they have made it clear they're open for business, and they are doing many specific initiatives to streamline those processes, to be available to people who are trying to bring high-paying jobs into the area, and it's making a difference. I would agree with that. Let me just take a little personal privilege from my perspective, and I've heard this mentioned before. If I own a piece of property that has development rights on it, I have the right to be able to build that. One of the things that I'm most impressed about the project that we're going to hear about west of town is that it has the rights to do tens of thousands of 25-acre ranchettes, every one of which with a well, with a septic tank. And as we saw what came through in our previous summits, that rather than to encourage that sprawl, we've asked landowners to consolidate and create more dense urban areas and then leave green space. And we're going to hear more about that. But on the other hand, I saw one of the comments that came up was, let's just put a moratorium on development. You elected officials, and you can help me, but my understanding is we don't have the legal right to do that. So we can either participate and collaborate and partner and influence things to be done in a quality way, or we're going to get this ad hoc whatever. So, I mean, any particular thoughts on that? Anybody want to elaborate on that? Mayor Cleveland? Oh, maybe use this one.
So Bob, you got it. And the concern and the feedback, the pushback usually centers around, hey, are we going to cause more damage to our environment? Are we going to have more flooding? Is this going to wreck the town that we have? We're blessed to have in the room resident expert marine biologist Chad Truxell from the Marine Discovery Center. I would like to hear Chad's explanation. A lot of us say, a lot of people will say, well, you got to pick. Either you're going to be a growth and business guy or you're going to be an environment guy. The environmental economic engine for our community is huge, a la this Indian River Lagoon. So if Chad, who I have not warned I would do this, if you would expound a bit on the cooperation that you see and what is possible to preserve our environment, specifically the lagoon, and at the same time develop business, that would be huge. Thank you.
I appreciate it. You get me for 10 minutes, coming up about half an hour later. All right, so if that works. So I think you're going to cover that in your I absolutely will. Awesome. Yep.
All right, stay tuned.
Right on, set that up really nice. We have another question we want to go to on our Mentimeter poll. So get your phones out. How can we work together to support education and workforce development? Keep in mind, the first thing companies ask when they are looking at an area is, where am I going to go? The second question is, who's going to work there? So we talked about some of the things that we've done. So give us your thoughts and ideas and on what can we do, how can we work together to better support education and workforce development. So engaging with the businesses, making sure we're teaching the right things, Daytona State College, maybe have a town hall, helping students in the schools understand what the opportunities are, bring kids into the workplace. And I believe the Chamber is working on an initiative for that right now. Making sure the things that are being taught are relevant. Engaging students at the middle school level. Including schools and colleges to collaborate. I will tell you, all of our colleges and schools are engaged with the economic development community. Don't work in a silo. That's exactly why we're here today. Reducing government levels of and barriers. We've heard discussion about how we're working on that. Vocational skills. Oops, there goes our screen. Okay. Thoughts that you want to share about that in terms of what you see going on? Councilman Johansson.
Jay Johansson, County Council. I like where we're going. I think we're behind. And I wrote up there that I think it's very important that we get all the stakeholders together and you know, to quote Jim Collins, get them on the right bus, but not only in the right bus, but in the right seat, or to be a Navy guy, to be rowing in the right direction. I'm not saying we're all going in different directions, but to get Daytona State, Embry-Riddle, VBIA, VMA, our chambers, and everybody hitting the points that need to be hit. We spend a lot of time talking about aerospace, we talk about STEM, we talk about engineering, but those people are going to come, and they're going to need a place to live, and they're going to need plumbers and electricians and all sorts of people to make all this work. It's got to be a coordinated effort, and I would say the same thing for the development conversation earlier. It's got to be a coordinated effort. Southeast Volusia is here together as one collaborative unit today, but they can't see what they envision, what they want to do without the help from the other east cities and in some cases the west cities. So we all have to play well in the sandbox. So from an education perspective, I think and some of those people get together, but they need to get together often. And what I see in a lot of meetings here in Volusia County in my 9 or 10 years is we get together and we talk. Round table of elected officials. We get together and talk, we get briefs, and then we go and wonder what's going to be for dinner at the next one. We have to be people of action, and that's why I like this meeting. If you're going to have a 5-hour meeting and walk away with no deliverables, except for Bob Williams busting his butt for 9 months, then it's not worth a meeting to have. So we need to get people together and come up with a plan, not just the school board having their plan and Dr. Labasso having his plan and Rodney Cruz and Embry-Riddle having their plan, and Team Volusia, sorry, I forgot, but all together. And we got to get those people together to make that happen. Not in Team Volusia's home court, not in the school board's home court, but a place like this where we can all get together and discuss the issues.
Thank you for that. I mean, that really does underscore none of us are interested in just planning and sitting it on the shelf. I'm very proud of the accomplishments that this initiative has led to, And we ask you to hold us accountable. If you think there's something we need to be doing we're not doing, please bring that forward. Any other comments on that? I think we have one more question that we were going to let you weigh in on. Speaking of Team Volusia, and for those of you that don't know, in the area of economic development, of recruitment, retention, and expansion, Team Volusia is our lead in business recruitment. So what are ways that we can attract, in addition to working with Team Volusia, how can we attract clean industry and high-paying jobs? And I think Councilman Robbins, brought up a good point earlier, that public safety and having a safe place to live is a key aspect of quality of life. And the fact that we invest in public safety and have a safe place to live, I think is a big aspect of that. So what other thoughts do you have about what we can do? Talking to CEOs, keep our quality of life high, and that's a lot about what we're talking about today. Safe community, have sites ready to go. Big key. Reaching out to them directly. Tawan Arrington is going to talk to us about how they're doing that at Team Volusia. Focus on how we are a great location to live, learn, work, and play. Keep our quality of life. Continue to improve our education. Raising our school performance, ratings, and again, they need our help in doing that. International, looking at other countries. Tawan can share some of the things they're doing there. Thoughts around the table that you would like to elaborate on any of this, anything spurred?
Well, when we've been involved in these active recruitments, I can say questions I'll hear from site selectors or the companies themselves. They right away want to know about our workforce, availability of our workforce. They want to know the educational level of the area. It's one of the top things. I think you're getting Boeing because in talking with Boeing officials, they had literally drained some of the other areas they worked in, and they saw that research triangle exactly as you described, and the fact that you have UCF with 65,000 kids down there, and a large engineering school, Embry-Riddle, University of Florida. For Boeing, that's just right next door. So the idea of capitalizing on that talent, they saw this as a place they could come and get the kind of talent that they need, or attract that talent within their very large organization, because they're moving people from all over their organization here. So I think that's a key thing. They right away will ask about the school system. They'll ask about just the livability factor. What housing prices, can they attract people? Do we have the right kind of housing stock for the type of people that they want to bring in? And again, the other question right away always is, what's it going to take for us to develop that site? Is it a building that's there ready to use, or are we starting from scratch? And of course, if we show them a field with not much there, by the way, the utilities would be a few years away, well, then we're going to be losing to somewhere else. Because there are areas of this country where people are leaving, and there's buildings there, there's factories that are empty and ready to go. There's a workforce that was left behind. Those areas are what our competition often is.
Thank you very much, George. So we're going to wrap up this portion of the section, because we're very blessed to have state and federal representatives here. So, Owe, I think you're going to transition this.
Yeah, I get to introduce, fun to talk about the team, right? We've got local, county, state, and now national electeds here. So I get to introduce Representative Chase Tremont. Chase is a devoted public servant from Volusia County. He's married to Stacy and has 5 children, including newborn Chase Jr. He has a background in education and community leadership. He transitioned from teaching high school history to local government, serving on the Port Orange City Council, and currently serves as the representative for District 30 in the Florida House. His legislative focus centers on fiscal responsibility, conservative principles, and advocating for vulnerable communities. Outside of politics, he is the lead pastor of Ocean Way Church in New Smyrna Beach. Representative Tremont played a pivotal role on several committees in this past session, including the committee whip for the Education and Employment Committee. His notable achievements include the unanimous passage of HB 3 for online child protection and HB 631 for foster youth support, underscoring his dedication to Florida's most vulnerable populations. It is one of his greatest honors to serve us in the Florida legislature. Come on up, Representative Chase Tremont.
Good morning, everybody. It's a true honor to be here. You know, the fascinating thing about this area, my wife and I were walking the beach the other day, as we do quite often, and there's never a moment when we're walking the beach where at some point during that walk we don't look at the water, look at the ocean, listen to the sounds, see the moonlight, and look at each other and say, I cannot believe that we live here. You know, people save their entire lives just to come here once. Imagine that. Somebody's bucket list is our everyday life. That's a truly phenomenal thing when you put that in perspective and you think about it as to where we're at. Because one of the great challenges that communities have when they're trying to draw business is incentive. There is no greater incentive than what we have naturally, what God has given us in this area. It's truly phenomenal. Meanwhile, yesterday, my wife and I were driving through Orlando on I-4. Nobody wants to live in Orlando. They don't want to live there. They don't want to drive I-4 every single day. They do it because they have to. More often than not, because that's where the high-paying jobs are. And I tell you, you know, as Bob Dylan famously said, the times they are a-changing. And I'm seeing great opportunity here, and one of those opportunities was through Embry-Riddle, an appropriations that I ran through the House this past year, where we obtained a number of millions of dollars that's going to create 400 very high-paying jobs in the aerospace field, which will naturally impact our ability to draw people here in New Smyrna with the Space Coast just south of us. The fact of the matter is, Calvin Coolidge once said, you know, I'm a history buff, he said, the business of the American people is business. So I always tell people, if you are an American, then by nature and by our DNA, you are pro-business. You're pro-free market, free enterprise, choice, competition. And that is what the state of Florida is. The state of Florida is number one in entrepreneurship, number one in new business startups, number one in net migration, number one in education, number one in educational freedom, number one in all sorts of different realms here. And the fact of the matter is, because of that success, we're seeing a massive influx of people. And we've all heard the statistic time and time again say there are 1,000 people moving here a day. 1,000 people moving here a day. And the fact of the matter is they have to move somewhere. And that gives a lot of people, there are two reactions that people tend to get from that. One is awesome, more opportunity, a bigger workforce coming in. And then there's the other aspect of it that said, oh no, not more people. And that's the general consensus from a lot of people is we have this idea that we want to move here, but we want to close the door behind us. We don't want to let anybody else in. And that's true for a lot of people because that becomes the ever challenge that we have to face every single day. Managing our growth so the quality of life that we currently live and enjoy is not impacted. Well, the fact of the matter is, it is going to be impacted. Change always has an impact. There's always going to bring some struggle with growth. But that is the challenge that we face here regionally. And you know what? Our challenges here are not unlike anywhere else in the state of Florida. Every single community deals with exactly the same challenges that we have here. So what I've always said as a pastor here in New Smyrna as well, the business leaders I speak to, the elected officials, the school teachers, the principals, the athletic directors, I always say it's an all-hands-on-deck approach. Everything that is active in our community has to work together in order to make a thriving community. Your churches have to be strong. Your schools have to be strong. Your real estate has to be strong. Your businesses have to be strong. And the business growth has to continue to happen because that's where your tax base is from, and that's what funds all the great projects that we do, the maintenance that we do, and the public safety that we offer. So that is so critical that we have here in the southeast Volusia County. We have great challenges ahead, but I'll tell you, we believe in the free market in the state of Florida. We believe in competition. We believe in supporting our businesses. We believe in public and private partnerships, and we're going to continue to operate that way. That being said, I will be sticking around, and one of the things, actually, I'll tell you, housing, I understand, is a major thorn and a major issue. Here's the reality, though. I know there are a number of folks out there, and I encounter them a lot throughout the community that say, we've got to stop building, we have to stop building. You can't stop building. The fact is, because the same people that have the comments about housing being so expensive and unaffordable are oftentimes the same folks who are saying we can't build anymore. Listen, housing is just like any other product or commodity. The greater the demand, the lower the supply, the higher the cost is. And that's not just to accommodate the people that are moving in here. That's to accommodate the families like my own who have 5 children. I'm part of the problem, I get it, who are eventually going to need a place to stay. And what are we doing? We're tired of shipping our kids out somewhere else. I certainly am. And one of our challenges and one of our focuses on the state legislature is making sure that we have an educated and prepared workforce. We've enacted some apprenticeship programs that where businesses and manufacturing companies and other industries can partner with the schools so kids, in my opinion, being the chair or being the whip on the education committee, one of our focuses was no longer not just preparing kids to be college students, but preparing them for the workforce. That is the time where they're captured. That's the time when they're already here. They're forced to go to school. That's the time when you help them to develop what their skills are, what their careers are going to be, so we can keep them home. And of course, attracting high-paying jobs here. We can talk, all day, but I know we don't have all day. But I think that was the 5 minutes allotted, so I appreciate that. But it is a great honor, and I don't have the script with me, but I don't need a script because my good friend, and I'm certainly proud. We have people at all levels of government, and as we've learned in the last couple of years, every level of government is critical. There are no levels of government. It's just a different role that you serve. Because we've seen rights violated in every single level of government over the past several years. That's why it's critical that we have people at all different spots in the legislative process representing us well. And I can't think of anyone more qualified, anyone tougher, and at the same time with great compassion to represent us at Washington, D.C. He is in the swamp, but he's not of the swamp. So it's my privilege to introduce and welcome my good friend, Congressman Corey Mills.
Thank you so much. Chase is an amazing state representative. We're honored. He's my state rep, so when I have complaints, I just go to him. Look, it's great to be here to see so many friends that I've known for years and years. I can remember working with Matt and working with Jake and, the other guy who gets claimed that he's my twin brother, although I think that I've got a little more gray. Mayor Cleveland, who's been amazing. No one does it better than the young man, Diesel Depew. What an amazing gentleman. George and I have sat across the table from each other many times and determined ways that we can actually go after the Corps of Engineers, who has really, for the last decade plus, ignored Volusia and Pinellas County, the only 2 counties in the state of Florida that still to this date doesn't have the 203 study that was necessary when we talk about environmental protection and beach shoreline erosion. These are key areas that we've all talked to, and obviously I didn't forget you, Ms. Perrine, because obviously we'd been on the trail many times. Look, I want to talk about where we're at. Obviously, it's an economic forum, and the one thing that I've determined long ago is that when it comes to economics, this is not a Democrat-Republican issue, it's an American issue. It's a community issue, it's a state issue. And we have to identify the fact that we can talk about the federal government's over expenditures. We can talk about the scary point that we're at right now where you have $35.6+ trillion. This is the first time, by the way, in America's history that we'll spend more on interest payments than we'll spend in our entire national defense annual budget. And that's a very critical thing for us. But we also have to identify the fact that we are now getting ready to be the second physical experiment of survival when it comes to the idea that only 28 empires nations in our world's history has ever seen 130% of GDP expenditure. And that's a really critical point for us as we continue to look at economic growth strategies that cannot be just done as an executive order, but must be codified into law. And that's the key thing here. Government works in reverse of what it should. And one of the issues that we see the debt that we've seen, one of the reasons that we're seeing the economic failures that we're seeing is because government tries to drive the industry and private sector through policy when it should be industry and the private sector who is driving policy for government. The only job creators, the only ones who are truly the ones who are actually getting out there and building our economy is the private sector and the industries that we're supposed to be supporting. That's why I was a big advocate and a co-sponsor on things like the REINS Act. The REINS Act is a great bill that would stop the overregulation of industry and allow us to be competitive not just domestically but in the international markets. We're getting our lunch eaten when it comes to China, Russia, and all the others when it comes to their ability to try and utilize international expansionism. We're also looking at the fact that since 1971, when we got rid of the gold standard and went to the petrodollar, that our effort was to try and ensure that a U.S. dollar was the most utilized and widely traded currency on the globe. And that works for developing nations and others, but also allowed us to get a stranglehold on the fact that we had assets and resources that we could have as a tangible good that backs our currency. So obviously, I am pro-energy anything. Look, we've determined long ago, energy is the global currency. It is not the dollar. It is not the dinar. It is not the baht. It is not the ruble. It is not the yen. It is not the peso. Energy dominance, energy independence is really key. But the interest of America isn't just to try and say that we're only going to focus on the things that we have like fossil fuel capabilities or natural gas or fracking, but also to look at things like nuclear fission capabilities that everyone jumps back from when they think about 9 Mile Island or Fukushima or Chernobyl, but our advancements in technology and innovations has gotten us to a point where it would be fractions of a cent in order for us to be able to ensure that we can lower the cost of heating and cooling our homes, lower the cost of CPI goods by lowering fuel prices to be able to get it from point A to point B, and utilizing codified economic growth strategies like H.R. 1, which was the Low Cost Energy Act, to help us to be able to get there. And all that sounds great until you realize that the biggest issue that government has is that they create the problem, then they solve the problem that they created and pat themselves on the back for it. This is the reality of how it works, and Congress as a whole is a broken institution that doesn't truly represent the values and the things that are necessary. But I can tell you here in Florida's 7th District, out of 28 districts in our entire state, Florida 7 leads in the most constituent service programs when it comes to 2,544 cases that we've resolved and over $33+ million that we've gotten back in SSI, VA, disability, FEMA, Treasury, all the things we have to deal with. And we know that after Nicole and Ian, we're still looking at the cleanup and the payback from FEMA, where they continue to drag their feet. The same as what George and I have been dealing with the Corps of Engineers. But I can tell you that the Corps of Engineers is now starting to move their feet. And do you know what it took? It took someone to actually do their job. Utilize things that we know in Congress called the Homan Act, where I'm allowed to actually put on the floor that I can take the director of the Corps of Engineers' salary from what it is right now down to $1 a year. If you're not going to do your job, you're not going to take care of the communities, you shouldn't be paid for it. It's a really simple principle. And so those are some of the things that we're looking at. But I'll be the first to say, I've sat in this room with all of you. We have a real issue when you're talking about 900 to 1,200 people who's moving into the state of Florida, which is great when we think about it from economic and business front assets. But then there's that thin line that we have to baby balance, which is how do we protect what we have here without overdevelopment to not lose what makes Volusia and Seminole County great, and at the same time be responsible enough to be able to invest the necessary assets and revenue to get things like I'm doing now, which is allocating more money for the Ponce Inlet Municipal Fire Station, so that we know that they can actually rise to the challenges of some of the high rises that are out there, or looking at the 203 studies. Or right now I'm working with the Hosseini family from ICI Homes, where we're looking at potentially investing in a state, federal, and local PPP that allows us to buy the old Veteran Administration's building to gut it out to make it affordable housing for homeless veterans. And I'm proud of initiatives like that. Last year I was the Veteran of Foreign Wars Legislator of the Year because of our continual advocacy on behalf of veterans, and no one takes better care than veterans. Jake and I have talked about that ad nauseum through our entire campaign trail about encouraging these types of things. But we also have to look at things like the lower Floridian aquifer and how we're going to actually ensure groundwater capacity and capability as we continue to increase the number of people who are moving into our district. New Smyrna, when I was growing up, you had New Smyrna, Sebastian Inlet, and the second light over in Cocoa as the best 3 places to surf in the world. I thought that was absolutely the greatest thing. And I remember going to McDonald's back when they had Monopoly, and you'd actually pull the tabs off the large fries and the large Coke, and you'd be able to try and save, like where it'd give you a free fry or a free Frosty or a free, and that's what you'd come down here, and you'd take $20 that you get from your allowance, drive down here, surf for the weekend, and try and utilize those as your actual food expenditures. That was back when New Smyrna was the hidden gem, but we're not hidden any longer. So now we have to think about how do we actually work together at the federal, the state, and at the private partnership of the industry and market to do what's necessary for what we're facing right now. We know we have onshoring of jobs that is necessary. We know workforce shortages because we need to destigmatize our trade, tech, and vocational certificate schools. That's truly what built America, but we look at brick and mortars in a different way than we used to. We need to start thinking about the fact that our resources and our assets that has been offshored are now more expensive, that we're paying 20-30% higher in CPI index goods, and that's actually driving up to make things like the cost of living unaffordable. And so this is where it's not a government. Reagan said it best when he made the comment. He said, if anyone ever says that I'm from the federal government, I'm here to help. Those are the scariest words in the world, right? But this is why things like this to engage in the private sector, things like this to engage in industry, looking at market industry surveys to know exactly how we can forecast job shortages so we can talk to the universities and the vocational tech and trade schools to say, how do we subsidize to get encouraging kids to come in and do welding, to MIG, TIG, Hilliard, to start talking about HVAC, to start talking about masonry, to start looking at all the different things that we're going to run short on so that we're not looking at the ideas of importing more people in to try and work in America or having American jobs taken away, but at the same time making sure the federal government does not compete directly with the private sector to encourage people to work harder, not to work. This is another issue that we have, is that we continue to subsidize a lifestyle that says, why should you go out and work full-time and build a career, work long enough to qualify for unemployment, then you don't have any workforce requirements, and then we can just keep paying you a monthly stipend that drives up that $35.6 trillion. And so I'll tell you right now, nothing is going to improve things more than having our communities come together, knowing that Volusia can come together, knowing that we got a great county manager who actually understands the key issues, that our beaches are one of the biggest attractions. And as Chase talked about, you wake up in the morning and you drive down the South and North Causeway, or you go down Peninsula Ave by Flagler, or whatever case may be, and you just think to yourself, God, I'm so blessed to be able to live here. Warren Buffett said, if you were born in America, you won the lottery. But I would say that if you're born in Florida, you really hit the jackpot. We are, in many ways, the beacon and the example for the rest of Florida, or for the rest of the country, excuse me. But it's how we're going to actually deal with the fact that we've run our state so well under our great governor that more and more people are going to want to come here. And how do we pick that thin balance of maintaining environmental standards, preventing beach erosion, and keeping this area in Volusia what it is, while maintaining its capabilities to accept all the increased density and population? That's where I look forward to working with our mayors, our city councils, our commissioners, and you in the private sector to help to develop an actual solution that isn't government-driven, but it's community-driven. I thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and God bless you all.
Congressman Mills, thank you very much. Representative Tremont, thank you all for taking the time to be here. We know you've got a lot going on. I appreciate your time very much. Hey, we're going to transition into a brief break. Before we do so, I want to thank our refreshment sponsors, the NSB Board of Realtors. Thank you very much. the CEO Business Alliance, Miami Corporation Management, and Fidelity National Title. Thank you for your involvement as our beverage sponsors, and also a big thank you to Riverside Catering, our catering group this morning. So hey, let's take about a 5-minute break. We got to make it a little shorter than planned, and then we'll reconvene for the second part of our agenda today. All right, folks, if we can please go ahead and find our seats. We're going to get started with kind of the second half of our day. And we're going to shift to some educational sessions here. So if you would please find your seats. 1 minute countdown. Awesome, thank you. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about our quality of life this afternoon and the things that contribute to our quality of life and their impact on our local economy. So we're going to start, we've talked about it this morning, we're in this beautiful room where even on a gloomy day we've got a good view of the river and it's really nice to see. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is our environment. It is a driver, as we've mentioned all morning this morning. So we have Chad Truxell, the Executive Director of the Marine Discovery Center, here to give us a little conversation about that. So please welcome Chad.
Awesome. Thank you, OE, and thank you, Chamber, for putting us together. It's not often that if the mayor asks me to speak, that I don't speak, but normally I take the mic and I probably speak for too long. But I did know that I was coming up here to speak before you today. My name is Chad Truxell. If I've never met you, I'm the Executive Director of the Marine Discovery Center. I'm actually celebrating, which is hard to believe for me and for my family, 20 years at the Marine Discovery Center this year. So, yeah, thank you. I didn't really think that I'd be doing it for as long as I have, but as you'll probably tell if you've never met me before, I'm pretty passionate about this body of water, about the mission that we have at the center, and some of the things that we've done and that we're going to be doing. So kind of reflecting a little bit, I'm a second-generation Floridian, and kind of the impetus for definitely the impetus for why I got into this field of conservation work is because I grew up in South Florida, the urban sprawl on Pompano Beach, right? And so loved my community, but the woods that I played in and rode dirt bikes in and built forts in the next 5, 7, 10 years became shopping plazas and really, packed housing and homes. And so it impacted me at a young age of this growth, right? We've been talking a lot about how do we balance this growth. This growth was happening here in my backyard, and it was impacting my quality of life as a kid. And it just really changed things. So that, as well as just having experiences at a young age in the water a lot, kind of led me to focusing my career path in conservation. So as I kind of tell you this story, maybe you'll kind of see some of the direction that we're heading to with the Marine Discovery Center. So just curious, we get confused all the time. My name is Chad. I work at the Marine Discovery Center. There's another Chad who works at the Marine Science Center, which is in Ponce Inlet. So I just want to make sure that you guys know we're here in New Smyrna Beach. We're a 501c3. We're not the Marine Science Center at Ponce Inlet. We partner. We love those guys, but we're very different. So who are we, right? What kind of business is the Marine Discovery Center? So we're a nature center. We're an environmental learning center. Whoops, I'm going that way. We're a science center, and we're a nonprofit organization, right? And so examples, like you might say, well, are you an aquarium? Like, what do you all do? Examples exist, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do, but Florida Oceanographic Society in Stuart, Florida, Loggerhead Marine Life Center in Juno Beach, Moat Marine Laboratory in Sarasota, Environmental Learning Center. Those are just examples of coastal environmental learning centers throughout our state of Florida. But I've had a chance to visit centers all over the country who are focused on how do we connect people to the natural world and the environment through immersive experiences, because it can be transformational in lots of ways. So our vision statement, pretty simple, right? Healthy coastal ecosystems for all and forever. Our mission to protect coastal ecosystems through education, conservation, and exploration. I'll tell you a little bit more about these 3 pillars. Those 3 pillars are strategic roots: education, conservation, exploration. This is kind of who we are and what we do. So we do a lot of educational programming. We have a 40-foot boat. You may have seen it before. We have a fleet of kayaks. When I first started at the Marine Discovery Center, I'd always talked about being program rich and facility poor. We started in a water treatment plant, those of you who know our story. We moved to a couple of single-wide trailers. Then in 2011, and I'll tell you more about this, we moved to the old New Smyrna Beach High School. We were really nervous. We're going into this property. We had no money. We're a nonprofit trying to figure this out. We were working with other partners. The city was very supportive of the effort. But how are we going to make this 22-acre parcel a center, and really something that the community is proud of? It was a former high school. There's a lot of history there. So I'll talk more about it. But we've been doing education programs since I started. I started as our director of education in 2004. And so we've been doing camp programs. So just to give you an example, right now we have 4 camps at the center with 20 kids each. It's busy. So 80 kids, and we're doing this immersive experience camp, everything from 5 years old to 15. So we'll see, roughly 800, 750 kids this summer alone. But overall, educational programs, it's not just kids, it's adults. We have all kinds of programs for adults. Give you an example, we did a program 2 months ago where it's called Marine Habitat Restoration. We teach 20 adults all about different types of habitats in the lagoon, everything from seagrass, not just the lagoon, but seagrass, coral reefs, sponges. So we actually took a destination trip after doing several activities up here into the Keys, right? And we had 3 days in the Keys of learning with FWC, with Mote Marine Laboratory, and others. So just the opportunity to do destination programming, having people come. We talk about, like, well, how does Marine Discovery Center drive economics? And we had people driving all the way, from our state to come here in New Smyrna Beach, spend nights during this class, and then we all drove together and head down to the Keys. So we took our money down to the Keys, there's no doubt, but we do that a lot, like where we have programs here and provide a lot of opportunity. And then conservation. So what do we do with conservation? Everything from shoreline, living shoreline protection or habitat enhancement. So we work on shuck and share oyster shell recycling program. We've been doing that for 10 years now. We've actually recycled or diverted over 1 million pounds of oyster shells from going into the landfill, working with Waste Pro, and then we converted them back into living oyster reefs in this lagoon. And that's been a really successful program, working with folks like University of Central Florida and other partners to put oysters back into our shoreline. When we do oysters, that's just one line of defense and or ecological function, but then we have grasses and mangroves. It's all part of what we call living shoreline, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. But we also get people out there monitoring water quality, looking at microplastics, or even horseshoe crabs. How many of you ever seen a living horseshoe crab? Hopefully if you've been here long enough, you've seen one. You'll hear stories all the time of, I remember when I was a kid, they were everywhere. They're not everywhere anymore. So why is that, right? So that's what we're trying to figure out. So we go out, we tag horseshoe crabs. I think the team tagged over 40 this year. But the idea is, let's get established baseline of horseshoe crabs. If you don't know this, horseshoe crabs, you depend on them. Every single vaccine that goes into your body or any injectable is actually tested to make sure it's sterile with the blood of a horseshoe crab, because their blood has this unique ability to clot in the presence of an endotoxin or fever-causing bacteria. So pretty cool stuff when it comes to, like, well, why? Why are you doing that? It's not this cute and cuddly animal. It's not a sea turtle. It's not a manatee. Horseshoe crabs are actually one of my favorite species. There's a lot more I can go into, but the chamber folks would probably get mad. But and then our exploration. Like, to me, this was why I got into this field. Yes, I saw the balance of life and kind of being taken away as a kid, but I also enjoyed going scuba diving and going surfing and going fishing, and it really was like that sense that we all have. And I know I get to stare at really the better direction here, but I'm watching boats go by and people fishing, even on a gloomy day. We do live in paradise, right? And so that exploration is a really important pillar that we have at the Marine Discovery Center. So in 2023, I had over 20,000 guests alone just in that part of our exploration. So let's talk about the lagoon. That's a big part of our mission. Coastal ecosystems in the Union River Lagoon. It's North America's most biologically diverse ecosystem. It spans here from Volusia County all the way down to Palm Beach County. This coastal estuary has over 4,000 species of plants and animals in it, so pretty special in that respect. And it includes the Mosquito Lagoon, Banana River, and Indian River. Those are the 3 bodies of water. We call it the river. It's really not, but we all call it that. Rivers flow in one direction. They eventually connect to the ocean, and in that interface of the ocean and river connecting is where you find brackish water or estuaries. This particular estuary is what we call a barrier island estuary, because we have the beach and the mainland, and what's in between is the actual lagoon. So what's the value? This is a National Estuary Program number. We all know that the lagoon provides a tremendous value economically to our system, from defense and aerospace, marine industry, living resources, tourism, and of course resource management. So the lagoon is an economic, if the lagoon is not healthy, we have issues, right? The lagoon is a major driver of economics for this community, it's just like the beach is. So nature numbers, these are just a couple of facts that I thought were kind of cool when kind of thinking about nature and how it impacts our economy. So restoring our coast can create more than 30 jobs for each $1 million invested. It's actually more than twice as many jobs as oil and gas and road construction industries combined. That's a pretty powerful number, thinking about that. 2025, next year, 75%, okay, of Americans will live within 50 miles of a coast, right? And so again, that goes to that number that, 800 to 1,200 people moving to Florida. But the point is, we all love water. We want to be close to it. We want to be in it, near it, on it. And so how are we as a community going to deal with those stressors, right? And that's the balance that we've been talking a lot about today. And I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we're doing. In 2016, it's a bit antiquated, but this particular study of the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program found that for every dollar that we invest in the IRL, there's a $33 return, right, to the regional economy. So it's pretty smart to invest money into lagoon restoration because we know we're going to get a solid return from that. So what are we doing? We talked a little bit about it. Bob mentioned things like the Mosquito Lagoon Reasonable Assurance Plan, or like we all like to refer to it as the RAP. The Mosquito Lagoon Insurance Plan basically stated that we knew that we were going to have issues because we had algal blooms, fish kills, and so forth, so we tried to get ahead of it. We had all kinds of stakeholders. The county was wonderful in really gathering people and working with DEP and other folks to create a plan so that we reduce how much loading we put into the system, how much pollutants we're putting into the system. And so that then went ahead and had several major capital investments, and Bob had referred to some of those. But what are some of the other things? Well, the CCMP, which again, all these acronyms that we use quite a bit in the government world, but it's just it's a comprehensive conservation management plan. And so that's put together by the National Estuary Program as a strategic plan, basically, for how do we make sure that we're going to have healthy habitat, that we're going to have a viable Indian River Lagoon. And so it's something that's constantly being worked on. There's regional restoration plans or teams. We have several members in our staff that are on that team. There's been lots of septic to sewer. We're making sure that we have good working septic systems. Brevard County to our south, if you're not familiar, they self-taxed, they taxed themselves on the Save Our Lagoon tax and brought in quite a bit of money with that. They're looking to revise that, but that's been some historical investments into the Indian River Lagoon just to our south. And then there's an upcoming Indian River Lagoon Assembly. I think I attended my first one about 8 years ago with the former mayor here in New Smyrna Beach. And the idea on that is to get all kinds of stakeholders, public and private, just like we're doing today, but spend 2 or 3 days and just focus on the lagoon, come up with strategies, and then drive those strategies. So our history, this is what I'm going to finish with. So have it in a couple of blocks for you, just so you kind of understand who we are, what we've done, and what we're going to be doing in the future, and how that impacts this community and in our way of life, and that balance that we've been talking a lot about here today on development versus the environment. Again, we started in a water treatment plant. That's our first 10 years. You can see there on the left side of the screen. And then we developed our first classroom. We had our boat, and that was like, hey, we're just love the water. Let's go out. And then over the years, we started realizing, hey, if we're going to make this a sustainable, viable business, we have to run it like a sustainable, viable business. You have to have a strategic plan. You have to have a master plan, an operational plan, right? These are all the things that are in my world nowadays. And so we continue to do that. We continue to look at what are our fee-for-service opportunities to generate revenue, and what are our grant opportunities, and how does all of those things matching up with our mission, right? Which is, ultimately to make sure that this system does stay healthy and viable. We moved into the New Smyrna Beach High School site, 2011. The next set of 5 years, we started the oyster shell recycling program. And then where we are now, we've had some great funding through the county ECHO project to really get us to where we are today. And so I just want to share this. Everyone know this site? If you don't know this site, New Smyrna Beach High School, I was actually a marine biology teacher there for 5 years when I came over from University of Florida. My background's in marine biology and fisheries, and so I was doing some teaching and informal teaching at University of Florida, and I had an opportunity to come over here. I love Volusia County. I would come up here and surf from South Florida quite a bit. My wife's family was here, so here I am, right? 25 years later. So my portable, I don't know if the pointer works on this, but if you look to the track, the very, on the far end, keep going down a little bit, that little portable to the right, a little bit to the right, yep. That was actually my portable, teaching marine biology. So kind of a fun place to be, just because you were surrounded by water. But what I really want to show you is how it's changed over the years, right? So the first thing is we've removed a lot of the buildings, right? That was the first thing. We kept one building, what was the administrative building or student services. We rehabbed that building. Then in another phase, we created a 5.5 acre salt marsh. So we actually dug out, and you're like, why would you do that? But we dug out 5.5 acres of property and converted it back into what it historically used to be, which was mangroves and salt marsh, right? So we created both the living element functions of ecological services that you're going to have, but also an opportunity for our staff and community to do research in this marsh and have kayak programs in this marsh and so forth. So kind of side by side, you can kind of see the difference that over time, we're focused on how do we provide more green space, yes, on the site, but also more opportunity for community engagement on the site. We feel like we can be an example. So we have a demonstration of a living shoreline on the property. All of our plants, we're switching out to native plants. We have beautiful native plant gardens on the property that you can learn more about. But the future is also pretty exciting. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of that. I know it's kind of hard to see with the lighting. But if you look, the county created a trailhead on our property. Now, it doesn't go anywhere right now because we're waiting on New Smyrna Beach, the Barracuda Bridge. Once that bridge gets done, right, I was hearing, by the way, 6 months for the longest time. Every time I'd ask, 6 months. When's it going to be done? 6 months. But I am hearing that it's going to be sooner, so I'm excited by that. I know it's a DOT job, and it's going to, it's going to be here for way beyond our lifetimes. With that said, that county trail is exciting because it'll be an opportunity for all of us, right, to come onto the property and connect both through a blue way, because we're going to have a kayak trail, but also through a great multi-purpose trail. So that happened last year. This is ongoing right now. So in that back oyster lot over there, which was the old driver's ed for the property, we're actually building right now. We have a dock that's being built, and then that project will pump water from the lagoon into a series of about 10 raceways. We're growing clams, and then that water will then step down, and we're growing seagrass, and then both of those items will be used in addition to our oysters and our other types of marsh grasses to restore habitat. We're also talking to other partners, like what other opportunities are there, because now we're going to have a seawater system and a flow-through system. So pretty exciting. That's happening right now. That is a National Estuary Program grant. And then this project's happening right now. It's funny, because the way permits work, it's like all of a sudden, here we go, right? Meaning they were delayed, and then all of a sudden everything's coming together. So we have 2 projects happening. This particular project is, we call it Promoting Paradise to Remove a Parking Lot. just kind of, having a little fun with the words, right, in the old song. So the idea on this one is that we're actually removing a third of that parking lot. And I know that some of you may be like, what are you doing, Chad? Like, say it ain't so, because we need more parking. But we're still going to have over 100 spaces just in that parking lot alone. We're going to create a trail. We're going to create a kayak launch access there, all native plants. That's a Disney-funded program in conjunction with FWC, St. John's River Water Management District, and the city of New Smyrna Beach has helped out as well with that project. So really excited by this project. If you come onto our property, you'll see the bulldozers and dump trucks working on it right now. So basically, you could go to the end of the water, and it was a 6-foot drop, and it was pretty much concrete fabriform. And so that's all been removed, and we're sloping the entire property so that allows tidal flow and gives you a lot more habitat function and access to the water. And then our future. So what are we doing in the future? So we are really looking at centers all around the country, but specifically Florida and the southeast. Tybee Island was one of them. I've looked at one in Lovers Key in Fort Myers that unfortunately recently got hit by the hurricane 2 years ago. And then also there's another couple of centers that we've been checking out. So our future is we need to build a new visitor center. We have 24 staff right now. Everyone's sharing lots of offices. We need another educational classroom. We're borrowing a classroom from the Artist Workshop. So we need a bigger space. We know that. We've identified that quite some time. So we're going to be moving into, we finalized our master plan last year. Now we're moving into basically getting schematic designs and engineering, and then really understanding, like, what's the budget going to be to build our dream. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. So the top right shows you like a nature playscape area that we're looking at, and then that bottom final picture just gives you an idea of what we're looking at for a new building that's really going to be an attractive and a destination, excuse me, a destination for people to come here to if I can talk, New Smyrna Beach. And I get nervous, by the way, up on these things. You probably don't recognize that, but I really do. So anyways, we're excited by all this stuff. I want to share the final quote with you guys. This is something that we have it in our lobby, and if you've never seen this quote, I just think it's a pretty impactful thing as far as what we do. It says, in the end, we will conserve only what we love, we will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we've been taught. And it's just a really simple way of just saying, hey, if we don't know about it, we're gonna probably impact it, we're probably gonna destroy it. If we learn about it, we're more likely to actually protect it. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chad. Thanks for being here today. Just an excellent point. That lagoon, those waves, these fish are a big part of the reason why we live here. So it is absolutely imperative that we preserve, protect, and as Chad said, invest in that as we continue to grow. I don't know about y'all, but a $33 return on a $1 investment, sign me up all day. That's a pretty good deal from a business perspective. So next, we're going to hear a little bit about our hospitality industry, and we've got Sherman Reed, a partner with Flagler Tavern, here to speak to us. So please welcome Sherman Reed.
Morning, everybody. My name is Sherman Reed with Flagler Tavern, and talk a little bit about the history where Chad left off. We're going to start here. We bought it in 2014, and we bought a building that consisted of 30 employees, 16% food sales, so essentially it was just kind of a bar. Over the course of the next 10 years, we've now grown to roughly 50% food, well over 100 employees. Can everybody hear me? Okay. To touch on what Chase said, it dawned on me, we had our first general manager, and I was new to restaurants. I owned an import business and a distribution business of specialty gourmet. So my first year, our general manager is giving a communication to our team, and she says, all year long people save to spend their money in New Smyrna Beach for the week or 2 weeks that they're here. We need to treat that with the utmost sensitivity and appreciation. And it dawned on me that that's going to permeate for the rest of our success that we have at New Smyrna, Southeast Volusia, more specifically Flagler Tavern. The thing that I saw when I was in distribution, I had an opportunity to service Fort Lauderdale, Tampa, St. Pete, and Orlando. And at the time, a lot of these big places were growing. And they were trying to create smaller communities within their bigger communities. it's interesting. And so they tried to get all of their restaurateurs and hospitality people to start working together. And they did. And those that really drove it were downtown St. Pete, Tampa area. Some areas in Orlando, Miami's growing like crazy, but it was this sense of community. So coming back here in New Smyrna, when I had an opportunity to take what I had learned in conjunction with my partners, what they had known about New Smyrna and Southeast Volusia County, it was this sense of community. It was really, really incredible how anecdotally people would come. They'd spend a week or two here, and after they'd leave, they'd keep in touch with us. They'd follow our social media. They'd buy our gift cards and support other people. And commerce kept going even when they were back home. And then we started to see them come more frequently, which was great. And then that led to people moving here. So all of these things we talk about, and when I'm listening to all these great thinkers and all these great plans that are here, on the hospitality world, we're a small part of what's really happening. Our trails, our waterways, our parks, our arts, our music. This is all awesome. We're just a small part of it, but in a way, we add to that. So Ray Oldenburg, he's a sociologist. He coined the term third place in 1989. It's known, but it's a place other than your work or your home. It's a third place like a restaurant or a coffee house or a farmer's market, any of these places. And this is what he considers to be our social fabric for our community. Social hierarchies left at the door. Doesn't matter. And that's the cool part about Southeast Volusia County. You don't know who you're sitting next to, right? You could be Chase or Corey or Sherman or a plumber or a bus driver. It doesn't matter. We're all going to enjoy one another. We're going to enjoy the scene that we have, the quality of life that we have together. So that's awesome. In the hospitality world, you guys may all understand this, and you guys are seeing the prices that are going up on your side. This isn't going to be doom and gloom, but this is going to let you know that there are some cost structures on our side that are contributing to that. So food supply, all the liquor supply, those things are pretty sporadic still. Labor cost is going up, insurance costs. So now as hospitality drivers, we need to look at how can we service our communities better without just driving up cost. A $20 hamburger doesn't work. $30 hamburger doesn't work. So when people are coming to visit us now and they've saved up all year to come visit us, they're still staying at the hotels. A little side note, Debbie Meals from the Visitor Center left a tourism pamphlet, and it's on each of your tables so you can kind of see where it is. But when they're here, they have a little bit less to spend with us. So instead of them coming out 3 days a week, they're coming out one. So how do we maximize that? That's what we're constantly trying to figure out. It's not all bad, though. I'd say right now, even as tough as it is in some situations, it's a great time to be in the hospitality and restaurant industry because it's forcing us as operators to look at better ways to control our overhead. It's forcing us to utilize technology in a way that services our customer experience better. It's really neat. 10 years ago when we started, the small businesses couldn't compete on technology. They couldn't use the data analytics from their POS systems to measure their inventory, what was being sold, to who, for how much dollars, what was being modified. Today, it's completely different. A small restaurant that's got 30 seats and a large restaurant that's got 300 seats all have access to the same information, which is great. At the same time, we have a more discerning and knowledgeable customer base. So they want low carbs, they want gluten-free, they want plant-based, they want local. And these are all great things, right? So, yep, right there, and that's wonderful. So now as restaurants and in the hospitality world, we actually have the analytics to see how we can service and create a better guest experience for everybody that comes in. That's wonderful. So I'm super excited about that. Even though it's a tough time, and Jason, you can attest to this, in situations for the hospitality, we are growing with an understanding of how to be better operators, how to be better within the community, and how to continually offer diverse and new options to our customers that constantly want and demand more. And so that's pretty neat when you think about all the things that you guys are talking about and how we're going to grow and how we're going to create more industry and how we're going to incentivize and motivate people to come in. We think in the hospitality world, as a small part, we can affect some of those positive decisions by offering a more diverse menu, a great level of experience and service, and good pricing, good quality pricing. So I know I'm trying not to take up a lot of time here, but I just wanted to let you guys know that the hospitality is super grateful for the opportunity to be part of New Smyrna and Southeast Volusia County. And you know, we hope that we continually earn your business and our ability to hire, motivate, and train and solicit people to come in to bring a greater sense of diversity to the community. So thank you very much.
Sherman, thank you for being here. So we've heard a little bit about our environment, our hospitality industry. Now let's shift to another major driver, and that is our arts community, another reason why this area is so special. So I'd like to welcome Richard England, who is the Executive Director of the Hub on Canal and Jane's Art Center, to speak to us about the arts.
Thank you, Owen. All right, thanks for the opportunity to have a chance to speak with you about the arts and the role that it can play in economic development. Not everybody thinks about the arts as a business or in business development terms, but the arts are a significant contributor to economic prosperity. According to the latest analysis from an organization called Americans for the Arts, which was published last fall, and it was the 6th study of its kind, nationally, the nonprofit arts and cultural sector generated $151.7 billion in economic activity in 2022. And I would imagine that figure was still somewhat impacted by COVID, particularly on the performance side, like theaters and things where restrictions were still there. So I don't have a 2023 number, but it probably took a decent jump. So of that 151.7, 73.3 billion of that was by the nonprofits themselves, and 78.4 billion was the money spent by people attending the events that those arts and cultural organizations put on. That supported 2.6 million jobs, generated $101 billion in personal income, and generated $29 billion worth of tax revenues that went to all different levels of governments from that. The data at the Volusia County level was just as impressive. From that same report, there was 49 million, this is also still 2022, 49 million in economic activity, just a hair under 1,000 jobs supported, $31 million worth of personal income, and just shy of $10 million in taxes paid at all levels. And on a related sort of stat, I just discovered that this pales in comparison to Chad's environmental numbers, but there's a statistic that every dollar invested in the arts returns $6 in direct and indirect economic activity. So I think that's a pretty good payback too, but 33 to 1 sounds better, but hopefully there's room for all of us in that. Now, Chad and I are each on the board of the Southeast Volusia Advertising Authority, so we have some insight into how our area is promoted to visitors, eventual visitors, and increasingly to residents as well. We all love New Smyrna Beach in Southeast Volusia County and want it to remain the amazing place that it is. As you heard from Bob and a couple other mentions, Bob Williams and a couple other mentions during the various presentations, people are clearly coming to Florida in the neighborhood of 1,000 a day. And because of all the wonderful things we have here where we are likely to get our share of those 1,000 every single day, whatever that percentage is. So our challenge is to manage that growth and retain why we love it here. Communities that end up thriving build on their strengths while simultaneously working to address their challenges. Two of our strengths are the incredible natural environment we nurture and the vibrant hospitality industry that's so vital to our tourism. You heard from Chad and Sherman about those. A third of that triad is the arts itself. So New Smyrna Beach has achieved a reputation as an arts community. That certainly didn't happen overnight, and it certainly didn't happen without an awful lot of work and effort from a lot of different people. It started with the Little Theater, which has been around since 1947 here, and followed on not too terribly long after that. The Artist Workshop has been around since 1958. Was a group of artists who decided they'd like to get together and form a group that promoted the opportunity for their art to be created and seen. Big step forward came in 1977 when Doris Leeper began the initial steps for the creation of Atlantic Center for the Arts, which of course ended up turning into as well Images, which I think has been around for about 44 years at this point roughly, Arts on Douglas and Harris House. ACA has had an enormous impact on what the arts reputation of New Smyrna Beach has become. And then following on to that, in 2012, the hub came into existence on Canal Street. That was March 1st of 2012. And speaking of economic development, I think that 2012 opening played an important role in the rebound of Canal Street from what was the ravages of the Great Recession of 08, 09. And I will point out to you that sometime in the first quarter of 2025, the hub will receive its 500,000th guest. I can't predict yet exactly when that's going to be, but it'll be first quarter next year for sure. And then Jane's Art Center, which was built in 2017 and 2018, which is now, of course, a portion of the hub, has been for just a little bit over a year. And that has grown in from scratch, not that many years ago, into a top-notch ceramic studio. I believe it's the best one outside of Daytona State in all of Volusia County. We just completed and dedicated with a bottle of champagne against the concrete blocks a new kiln building on the property at Jane's, and there's a soda kiln to follow. So we will continue to expand the ceramics opportunities for everybody around here. There are some much bigger plans in the works to change the face of arts education in the area, but stay tuned for that. And then, of course, beyond those places that I just mentioned, there are all the other galleries and studios, both on Canal Street, Flagler, and elsewhere around the city as well. In the spirit of building on our strengths and recommended by the marketing consultants to the Visitors Bureau, the city's arts organizations and interested others are working with various community partners to develop a proposal to establish an arts district that will be recognized by visitors to New Smyrna Beach. We believe that an arts district can help attract the desirable visitors who come here for that, drive economic growth across all businesses, and continue to push our arts community even higher into the reputational realm than it already has. These visitors who come here for the arts specifically, I think tend to have more disposable income, stay longer, and leave more money behind, if you will, in the community, which is good for all of us. As the area grows, it will be important to continue to nurture the arts orientation. As businesses, especially larger ones, look for places to place their investments, one of the yardsticks by which the attractiveness of a place is judged is the cultural opportunities presented to what will be their employees. We've got that here, and it behooves us to help grow it. From an arts and economic prosperity, the same report that I cited earlier with the data, there was a quote from the mayor of Reno, Nevada, which I think is apt. Mayors understand the connection between the arts industry and city revenues. Arts activities create thousands of direct and indirect jobs and generate billions in government and business revenues. The arts also help make our cities destinations for tourists, help attract and retain businesses, and play an important role in the economic revitalization and vibrancy of our neighborhoods. Continuing from that same report, in a survey of people who attended arts and cultural events, 80% of the respondents said that the event that they were attending inspires a sense of pride in the neighborhood or community, and 86% said they would feel a great sense of loss if that activity or venue were no longer available. As the businesses we attract to the area grow their operations, they will need to hire workers for their operations. According to the Conference Board's Ready to Innovate report, creativity is a top 5 applied skill sought by business leaders and employers. We, the arts community here in New Smyrna Beach, are ready to help with that. And also from the conference board, a gentleman by the name of Paul Washington, who's the executive director for Environmental, Social, and Governance Center there, said, quote, "By supporting the arts, companies attract and retain talent and create the environment where creativity, businesses, and communities thrive." And I think there's another intangible here. I certainly believe, and I think it's commonly held among those of us in the arts, that the arts in general build better communities that are kinder and more inclusive and more imaginative and creative, and that's a good thing for all of us. From a public perspective, I think the opportunities to experience the arts have generally declined over, say, my lifetime, as we have, I think, reoriented or tried to reorient everybody to always go to college and schools. The opportunities to take the arts, while maybe there, didn't get chosen as nearly as often as they used to a long time ago. And so the exposure depended a lot on where you happened to be. If you were in New York City, there was a bunch of free museums around, but if you weren't in a place that had those great institutions, and especially if they didn't, if they cost a fee to attend, I think it's gotten harder in general, and I think that's been a loss for all of us and all of the communities that have to suffer through that, or have had to suffer through that. So access to museums, galleries, the theater, the presence of public art, murals, all put a smile on your face and make you think and make us all better human beings. So the arts community stands here ready to partner with the business community, both current and future. And like the other wonderful attributes of our little corner of Volusia County, when we build on our strengths, we thrive and get more of what we love. Thank you.
Richard, thank you for being here. So we heard a little bit about environment, the hospitality industry, and the arts, 3 things that are key pillars to our quality of life and things we need to continue to invest in and protect. Now let's talk a little bit about how our area is marketed. We have an arm to do that, right? I have a specific organization called Team Volusia, and we have Tawan Arrington, who is the business development director from Team Volusia, here to talk about their strategic plan and how specifically it maps to Southeast Volusia. So please welcome Tawan Arrington.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tawan Arrington, as mentioned before. This is perfect timing. We actually had the opportunity to attend SpaceCom this past January, and we actually set up a booth, and at our booth we actually held up a map, and it highlighted Deering Park, and it talked about future potential opportunities. Well, at the same time we had this set up at our booth, the U.S. military, like high-ranking individuals, space individuals, it almost had to be a terrorist attack for these individuals to be in a room at the same time. Well, these individuals were in the room at the same time, and they were talking about how the Cape was running out of space. They were at max capacity regard to water, and we need to start looking north. As soon as that meeting was over with, they came out, and they came up to our booth, and you saw U.S. militaries in uniform taking pictures of this future development. So the conversation's already taken place. It's up to us to be ready for that opportunity. And with our strategic plan, what we did was we looked at communities that we lost some projects to, but we also looked at communities that we were very competitive with. So we looked at like Huntsville, Alabama, Williamson County, Texas, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and Brevard County. And we make sure we were looking at the target industries that were in regards to the future of Volusia. So we looked at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, but we looked at it as their opportunities, strengths, and threats. As you see here, we currently have 113,000 individuals going outside the county just for work. This information was just updated yesterday. We want to make sure we had the most accurate numbers. We currently have 110,000 individuals still in the county working, but we have 61,000 that are not in the county that are currently coming to the county for work. That's why it's so important that we're focusing on bringing in higher paying jobs to make sure we're keeping our talent in our county. And if you see here, currently, we actually ran this number again to make sure we were accurate. We have 86% of employment is outside of leisure and hospitality. So we're actually improving in that area. It was 85%. We're slowly growing in that area to making sure we're bringing higher paying jobs. And these are the new target sectors we looked at. and then go in a little bit more detail, where you looked at the advanced manufacturing, where we saw from 2018 to 2023, we have a 10% growth. And these are averaging about 78,000. So we want to make sure we're keeping our talent here. We have 9 universities in the community, so let's make sure those students that are graduating can afford to live in the community and continue to help their families expand here. And our other key area that we've already been focused on was aerospace and aviation. It was very great that we introduced Boeing in the area, but we also had current companies that were actually already working with Boeing in regards to contract. So that's why it's so important that we have incubator space for these smaller companies. We actually have a company that we actually landed in Embry-Riddle. Their office is smaller than this little area here. They had 10,000 devices that they were currently building for Boeing, and each of those devices were $65,000 each, what they were being compensated for. So we don't build a rocket here, but we're bringing in companies that help build rockets. And when we look at this new target area, we're looking at regards to corporate and regional headquarters. We're looking at from 23 to about 28. We're forecasting about 15% growth in that sector. And then finance and insurance. This is another new area we're considering looking at. We actually ran a study on New Smyrna Beach because we were looking at a credit union that was interested in New Smyrna. Well, we found out there was only one credit union here, so that was a good opportunity for them to consider. And right now we're looking at between 23 to 28 or 6% growth in that sector. And the average wages are looking at about 102,000 in those areas. And we're also looking more into life sciences. We previously had the company Bebron that came into the area. They came in and said we need 500 jobs. We were able to not only deliver that 500, but they said, great, we need another 500. And working with Career Source and our local partners, we were able to identify another 500 individuals in 90 days. So we have the talent and we have the individuals here, and it's time to take advantage of those opportunities. As mentioned before, we have logistics. We're expecting about a 384% growth in that area. And then currently, historically, we actually have over 720 jobs in that sector already. And some of the highlights that we've taken advantage of, we partnered with Florida Power and Light and created our new marketing website, Life in Volusia FL. You can't see it that well on it because of lighting, but the reason this partnership is to be able to recruit talent, to bring in more quality individuals, to make sure when we're bringing these higher paying jobs, we actually have the workforce here available to do that. By 2030, we're looking at another 100,000 individuals in Volusia County alone. And one of the things I can say is thank you to all of you for your partnership and support. We were actually able to go and become accredited economic development organization. Prior to our joining, there was only 6 accredited organizations in Florida. We're now the 7th one. We became the 81st accredited economic development organization, and there's only 2% that have applied for this. And there's over 5,000 accredited 5,000 organizations that complete economic development. Only 2% of them are actually accredited. So thank you for your time.
Tawan, thanks for being with us. So we've talked a lot about what we need to preserve. We've talked a lot about growth that is coming to our area. So let's talk a little bit about how we can grow smart. Let's talk about smart growth. So to kick off that conversation, I'd like to welcome Glenn Storch. Glenn is with the Storch Law Firm, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about how we can grow smart. Glenn, welcome.
Well, first of all, you've heard the themes today. The theme is balance and partnership. That's what we've heard. So the mayor, who's not here anymore, indicated, how do we go forward? Well, we go forward by working together and balancing. And you balance job creation, and you balance tax reduction and ecosystem preservation. I've got to tell you, everyone balances things in your life. I'm 7th generation. My parents actually own a nature preserve, and yet at the same time, I've got kids. I want to find a job for them. I want them to live in the area. I want them to be here. And so we've got to find some way of balancing those things. So the good news is that we're making real progress as far as economic development in Southeast Volusia. The better news is much of the planning preserves large areas of habitat and open space without cost to the community. And the best recent news is because of public-private partnerships, we're able to restore and enhance the ecosystems of Volusia County. That's not easy, and it takes place because of working together with cities, counties, states, and the landowners. Next one. Let's see here. That's wrong. All right. So the real need here is to diversify Southeast Volusia's tax base. As you can see, most of the Southeast Volusia cities are basically almost entirely residential. That's where your tax base is coming from. As a result, any governmental expenses during the next few years or for the next 10 years is going to be borne by the homeowners. Your homeowners are going to have their taxes increased unless we find non-residential. And plus, the advantage, of course, of doing non-residential is we create jobs for our kids. So, in 2022 and 2023, the Southeast Volusia Economic Development Summits came together and they started looking at this. They recommended something we could actually do to solve the problem. And what that was look at the idea of creating a business park. They looked at the idea of creating it west of 95 along the future Williamson Boulevard right-of-way north of Edgewater. So since that time, and this has been this year especially, New Smyrna Beach has worked extensively with the landowner in this area. The landowner is my client. As a result, we've now come together and worked together on a plan called Deering Park Innovation Center. They asked us to do this. We weren't looking at doing this, but they asked us to do this. We worked together. We have put a lot of money into it to make sure it's the right thing to do and the right way to do it. And we've gotten a lot of input that we've incorporated into this. It's 1,600 acres all along this proposed Williamson route. And the nice thing, of course, it also ties into Edgewater. It ties into the Edgewater Deering Park sections that also have mixed-use job-producing areas. The best part about this is it requires the non-residential job production prior to beginning residential construction. So for several years, there'll be no residential at all in this area. And in fact, we're going to be required to have 500,000 square feet of non-residential built and another 500,000 square feet permitted by the city for construction before any homes are put in. This is what we're trying to accomplish. This, by the way, accomplishes the same thing in Edgewater. We're trying to bring in light industry, aerospace, biomedical, pharmaceutical, corporate headquarters, office use, and municipal and institutional use. Space is the key right now, just like you've been hearing. My son, again, who had to at one point go to Detroit to get a job and then to Atlanta to get a job, is now back in Florida, and he was able to get a job at the Cape. That's what everyone used to do, or a lot of people here used to do. We used to have a lot of people that worked at the Cape, and we were part of the Cape's infrastructure. We've got to find a way of getting the businesses in the Cape to come up here, and we can do that if we have the opportunity, because they want to be here. They're running out of space in Brevard County. They don't have the infrastructure they need. We can provide that. Some of the progress that we've been making also goes into our road infrastructure, as George has indicated. The key here is Williamson Boulevard. Williamson Boulevard, of course, is the alternate 95 that will provide access in the event there's fires or something else that stops I-95 in its tracks. And that now has been built all the way from Ormond Beach down to Pioneer Trail. Getting the piece from Pioneer Trail down to 442, which completes it, has been very difficult. But we've now been able to work together with the Utilities Commission and with the landowners, and now we have the entire right-of-way from Pioneer Trail to 44 in place. The county has it, and within 60 days, my client will be dedicating the right-of-way from State Road 44 to State Road 442, completing all the area. At that point, we look at finding ways to construct these segments one at a time. This is what shows some of the areas that we allow for businesses and light industry in New Smyrna Beach. So you see, there's New Smyrna, or there will be New Smyrna when we have the Innovation Park entitled. But there's also the areas along 95 in Edgewater. Those are already entitled, and those areas are beginning to be platted and site planned right now, and the roads are getting ready to be constructed. And at the same time, you have areas down at 442 directly at that interchange. This is going to be the economic hub of Southeast Volusia, because these are where things are entitled. These are things where the roads, where the infrastructure, where the utilities, everything is in place for this to happen, almost. We're going to finish up with New Smyrna hopefully soon. I want to say one of the reasons for that is because the family that I work for, the company that I work for, that owns 70,000 acres, started doing this the right way. They started doing this years ago by looking at the idea that they had 59,000 acres. They had 59,000 acres that they'd had since 1925. They'd use it as a timber operation, and unfortunately, over time, timbering in Volusia County has gone away. The mills were moved further north, and as a result, you couldn't economically timber anymore. And so, just like all the other timber companies, Georgia Pacific, et cetera, that had huge pieces of land in Volusia County, they were getting ready to sell out everything as ranchettes. And so the entire property was divided up into ranchettes, the entire property. Thousands of ranchettes, just as Bob has indicated before, and those thousands of ranchettes would have created this. They would have created 5, 10, 20, 25 acre ranchettes. They would have permanently fragmented the property. They would have permanently fragmented the habitat and the habitat corridors in these areas, and they would have required thousands of septic tanks and individual wells on these properties. That's what was common at the time. There was absolutely no potential for economic development if this had gone through. Instead, the company looked at this. They'd had this property since 1925. They really had a love for this property. And so when we found an option for them, when the state worked with us to find an option for them, and the option was, why don't you look at the idea of doing smart growth? Why don't you look at the idea of clustering everything together and providing economic development in these areas that are appropriate for it, and at the same time preserving these habitat corridors so that they connect to the entire statewide habitat corridor systems. That's what created this area, the Farmington local plan. And that Farmington local plan preserves 45,000 acres, has already preserved 45,000 acres that are already in conservation easements because of the foresight of this family and the ability of this family to work together with everyone. That's what's important here, and that public-private partnership advantage is not just that, because the 45,000 acres has not been given to the state, although there are easements over it for the state and for the county and for Audubon Society. The most important thing is that we also maintain it. We spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to maintain the property the right way, because the government cannot do that properly. Now, water conservation. We talked about water conservation a few minutes ago. So we looked at this years ago, and the bottom line is, if I had done the thousands of ranchettes, which was already permitted, which was already subdivided, ready to sell, the amount of water would have been 79% more than we're going to put in for the entire property now, because of the fact you do proper water conservation, you cluster, you do municipal well, a municipal system as opposed to individual fragmented wells. You save water. You change it by doing things like simple things, like requiring the right kind of plants, like we're doing in New Smyrna. We're requiring the fact that you have to do Florida-friendly and native plant materials for your landscaping. It's a simple thing, but it saves a ton of irrigation, because most of our water usage is in fact irrigation. So on top of that, we've also partnered with Titusville and Edgewater to help provide potable water. We provided wells and well sites to Titusville in a partnership with Titusville, and to Edgewater in providing actual well sites to make sure that we have sufficient water. The reason for that is it turns out that this area has large hydrological resources that we didn't even know about until we started looking at this entire area. So now we have an opportunity to partner with our communities in the area. I want to point out something else. Oak Hill has been a tremendous partner in a lot of these things, and they don't get the credit they deserve. So Oak Hill, as you know, is a community at the very southern tip of Southeast Volusia. They have had to rely upon septic tanks all these years. And unfortunately, those septic tanks leach into the Mosquito Lagoon system. That's something that can only be stopped with money, because you have to provide some sort of mechanism to actually get municipal wells and septic systems down there. We've done that. By public-private partnership, you're now bringing this water and sewer down to the center part of Oak Hill, and we'll be able to then hook up all along there. That's going to be incredibly important for the city of Oak Hill as far as the ability to bring in the space industry, to bring in the and to protect the ecosystem. So Oak Hill is now poised for increase in values and investment and job production. This is Deering Park North. This is in Edgewater, directly south of Deering Park Innovation Center. As we've talked about before, there's an additional 3,700 acres that are now being put into this, into conservation as part of this system. By the way, Deering Park Innovation System will add another 400 acres minimum to this entire system. The 45,000 acre conservation corridor is part of the statewide wildlife corridor and the conservation management plan. Again, what this does is it ties into the entire statewide system. Without this area, the system would not have a corridor. It would be stopped. So this is why it's so important in this case. Now, the redesign of Deering Park North allows for the development also of a wetland park. And when I say a wetland park, it sounds like, oh, this is to be fun. No, the wetland park is because of the fact when we were working with Edgewater, they asked us, look, we have this real problem with our reuse effluent. We have no place to put it, especially in summer, where you have all these rain systems. Nothing, the only thing we can do is dump it into the Indian River Lagoon, which we're permitted to do. They're permitted to dump up to 1.5 million gallons of water per day into the Indian River Lagoon. And what that does, of course, is potentially increase nutrient levels. We need to find a way of dealing with it. So what we did is we worked together with them as a public-private partnership to create this wetland park, to have a place to put it, and to also recharge our aquifer. And I'm going to have two people come up and talk about two things. Robbie Lee is going to come up and talk about the private conservation management efforts, because it costs money to maintain conservation easements. And then Ernie Cox is going to come up and talk about this wetland park, because he's been spearheading the entire thing and getting this done. And I will tell you, the key is getting it done, actually getting things accomplished, which we've been doing. Robbie? Oh, you want the microphone too?
Good morning. My name is Robbie Lee. I'm the Farmington Land Manager, and I realize that Ernie and I are standing in the way of you and lunch. So we will do our very best to ease this along. But I'm going to give you guys just a snapshot of what we do to take care of this land. And 3 years ago, I interviewed for this job, and I'm just a forester. And when you look at 70,000 acres and the interstate and the beach, my first question was, is this long term? And then that's when the Miami team got around me, and they basically presented what Glenn just showed you guys. I'm honored to be able to work on something as thought about and as planned as this tract is, trying to do things the right way, a different way, but a right way. And it's a landowner's legacy is what we're working on here. It's just gonna be forever. And so it's just an honor to be here with my team to try to make a difference here. When you look at the management plan that we go by, that's just a roadmap for me and my team to show how different places on the forest they'd like to have treated. And when you back up and you look at it in a holistic view to how everything needs to be treated, it's a common bedrock to say, just be good stewards to the land. Be good stewards. Now, what does that mean? That means me and my team are out there every day. We're out there every day riding. We're out there every day looking. We're doing things on the forest to try to make the best better, and we'll review some of those things as what we're doing. as we do the things on the forest, one thing to keep in mind is everything we do, we keep in mind state BMPs, and we're also a certified forest with the American Tree Farm System. So there are principles that we abide by when it comes to those things also. Active land management means, you know, again, we're out there all the time. And a couple of things that we see that really needs our attention is things like understory management. And so when you see a forest floor, it builds over time. So those are things that we pay attention to and have a lot of tools in the toolbox to figure out, okay, how do we reduce the forest floor? How do we reduce the understory and take away the fuel that a wildfire needs and increase wildlife habitat? So those are things we look at there. We also look at stand dynamics. People see standing timber, it's beautiful, I get it. We look at it as we look at it as healthy. What do the tops look like? Is it overcrowded? What does it need? How can we make it better? I'll give you, for instance, we had some overcrowding right up against Crane Swamp. If we had a fire come out of Crane Swamp, there was no way we were going to be able to get an initial attack tractor in there to get the fire out. So we had to get a logging crew in there to thin it out, make it healthy, get it in there where we can get a fire out, and keep the wildfires as small as possible. Wildlife habitat, we're always looking at that. We're always looking at our wildlife. Every year we do an annual wildlife study with wildlife biologists, and this keeps our finger on the pulse of the animals that are out there on Farmington. How are they doing? What's the populations look like? We have a lot of data that we can go back in time then and build trends out, so we can keep in touch with how things are doing. So if we see an alarming trend, we get our wildlife biologists together, we figure it out. Is there something we need to isolate? Something that we're really keeping an eye on is chronic wasting disease. It started in the Midwest, and now it's kind of eased its way down, and there was actually a case last year in the Panhandle. It attacks the deer herds. It's devastating, and it's very contagious. So those are things that we really have to keep an eye on there. Another one is the hog population. Hogs can be devastating to the understory, and so those are things that we have to analyze every year as those studies come in. Invasive species. My goodness, Florida has its share of invasive species, from Kogan grass to old world climbing fern to Brazilian pepper. We spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources trying to keep all those invasive species in check. And we do a really good job at it, but you can't eradicate it. It's just something you have to keep on fighting the fight, and they're always going to be there. Every February, we get up in a helicopter and we aerial treat old world climbing fern. Old world climbing fern, it lives its life to get in our pristine cypress swamps, to get in the tops, and to choke it out and to kill it. So we live our life to go kill it, because that's the way you have to think about it. You have to be very aggressive with these invasive species, otherwise they're going to get a toehold, and they're invasive, so they're gonna crawl out and get you. We look at restore hydrology. We have a lot of culverts that we maintain, a lot of low water crossings, a lot of bridges. We also look at where some pine plantations are located on the forest, and they need to be transformed into more of a natural flat woods landscape. And this helps with the sheet flow and the ebbs and flows and the reach flow and circulation of all the water that goes through Farmington. And we have 300 miles of woods roads to maintain. So I do that with two guys who have 30 plus years on the forest. I call them a Picasso on a motor grader, because they are great, they are fantastic, but you're always chasing the roads, always. But your roads are your biggest asset. That's how you get firefighters to your fires. That's how you get your wood out to the market. That's how you get your cattle out to the market. You know, there's a lot of things that depend on the roads and the road systems, so it deserves our attention. And we work hard at it, but we're always chasing it. Our oversight. Our oversight on the conservation easements, we have Audubon of Florida, St. John's Water Management, Volusia County, Brevard County. We meet once a year, and we show them our plan for the year, what we've accomplished. We show them what we'd like to do the following year, and it's good to have those sets of eyes out there as you ride around and look, and you show them your successes, you show them your failures, and what you could have done different. And it's a good relationship. We have them. They're firm, but they're fair, and we just appreciate them coming out and helping us making the best better. And it's very important here that there's no cost to the taxpayer here. This is what the family wants to do. They feel like this is their responsibility because it's their land, and they want to take care of it this way. And so no cost to the taxpayers. And actually, when you look at it with the landowner, they are the true stewardship. They are the true stewards and the example that we should all go by.
Thanks, sir. And now I know I know a number of y'all have been out to the property, and Robbie and I would also like to offer, if anyone would like a tour, please let us know. We'll be around for a little bit afterwards, and you can always reach out to us. But it's really a special place. Glenn mentioned this wetland park, and has anybody ever been to the Orlando Wetland Park? If you have, raise your hand. Okay, there's a number of these around the state. I happen to work on one, the 4G Ranch over in Pasco County. We're working on a couple others around the state, but basically the idea is to create wetland habitat that gets hydrated from reclaimed water and taken, in this circumstance, reclaimed water out of the Mosquito Lagoon. So it's really, the City of Edgewater has been an incredible partner with us on everything that we're trying to accomplish, from the land use planning and the conservation and the development of Deering Park. But this wetland park is going to be a regional resource for everyone. Initially, it's going to take about 1.5 million gallons a day of reclaimed water out of the Mosquito Lagoon, take it into an upland habitat, which will be designed for people to enjoy. So for you bird watchers, there'll be a lot of bird life out there. For you plant lovers, there'll be a lot of native plants. And for you water quality people, there'll be a lot of water quality improvement. We're designing it so that it can be expanded as the city grows and as the utility expands. And I want to thank our partners at the state of Florida. This is being constructed and through a grant from DEP. There's a Indian River Lagoon Water Quality Program. Actually, I just got a note while we were talking. The deadline has been extended to July 15 for anybody that's thinking about making an application. And thank you to Representative Tremont and others who appropriated another $100 million towards that program this year. But really excited about it. We're expecting that the Deering Park Stewardship District will select a design-build contractor at their meeting in July, and we're hoping to schedule a groundbreaking hopefully later this year. So we'll let you guys come out and see it. We're really excited. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, whoop, I went backwards, sorry, Robbie, is the trail system. And this area, Volusia County, Edgewater, New Smyrna Beach is blessed to have a regional trail network, and Florida has what's called the Sun Trail non-motorized network that runs throughout. We were successful working again with the City of Edgewater and New Smyrna Beach in getting a 7-mile segment added to the Sun Trail network this year and we're in the process, fingers crossed, that DOT will select this for construction funding, and it's going to go right next to the Edgewater Wetland Park and connect up to further improve this trail network. And then just finally, we'll close out. This has been a project. Glenn's been working on it for most of a career and a couple of years. Of course, I'm much younger than him. And but the partnership with the community is really, really important. And we are blessed to have landowners that allow us to do things the right way. It's a seventh generation family business with strong ties to agriculture, strong ties to Florida. But we're also blessed to have been able to bring in a development partner to work with us. And so instead of this landowner doing what so many have, which is just sell the property to the highest bidder and let them do what they want with it, we're creating, together with many of you in this room, Deering Park, a place that hopefully we'll all be proud of for generations. And we brought in Coulter Land as our development partner. Coulter is a private development company. Many of our partners are with us today. And it's going to be really important for us to integrate better with you all, with the business community, the conservation community, the recreation community, and to become more and more a part of it. So we, on behalf of our folks, we are very, very excited to be part of it. And final closing thought, between the Edgewater and the New Smyrna Beach section, there'll be about 10 million square feet of non-residential space. Let's go create some jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Ernie. Thanks for being here with us today. Hey, I know we ran a little over on time. Thank you all for your patience. We couldn't do this without our sponsors. So I want to take a minute to thank the sponsors that were involved in the event today, which is Advent Health, the CEO Business Alliance, the City of New Smyrna Beach, the Brannon Center, Team Volusia, LTG Engineering and Planning, the NSB Board of Realtors, Deering Park, of course, and Fidelity National Title. So please give them a round of applause. Thanks for helping to put this on today. Hey, I also want to recognize our chamber staff who worked tirelessly to put this event together. So if you would please stand. Stephanie Ford, our president and CEO, Ashley Powers, our administrative specialist, Emily Bonomo, our events director back there, and the newest member of the team, Meredith Iannucci, who is our business development and marketing director. Thank you. Hey, quick point of order. We'll have all the slides from this presentation available for you after the fact. And also, as y'all saw, when we did that Mentimeter, wow, there were a lot of responses. There was a lot to digest out of that. And this, we're the business community, so we're action-oriented. The mission here is to try to take some action based on what happened today. So Ashley's going to pull up a slide for me, but I want to leave you with one anecdotal thing before we do that. My son was just proud to represent our area in the 8U baseball tournament, all right, the regional baseball tournament. So we went and we played a couple weeks ago over in DeBerry. DeLand was there, DeBerry was there, Sanford was there, Ormond Beach was there. And you know what our team is called? You know what the front of this jersey says? Any guesses? The front of our jerseys say Southeast Volusia, right? So we are, even in the world of youth sports, we are a region, we are a team, and we are better as a result of that. So as I sat at that tournament and I saw all these other towns represented, I thought to myself, that's pretty special. Even in youth sports, we're acting as a region. Now, we got smoked. Those kids in DeBerry, they're machines. I think we learned that all the wonderful things we have here prevent us from playing baseball 24 hours a day. So, but it was really neat, and I thought that was pretty cool because in the business world, we talk about being a region a lot, and we are even represented as such in the youth sports world. So I thought you would appreciate that. Now let's look at our key takeaways from the Mentimeter today. They try to kind of condense everything and boil it down. So on the quality of life side, community, right? What I just talked about, community was one of the key bits of feedback that came through there, and really the desire to see smart growth. Marketing, we talked about working as a region and really working on the educational side of workforce development. Workforce development was connecting students to careers in SEV. So I think we could talk with our friends at SEVMTC about that and some things that the Chamber's working on ways we can advance that specifically. And then the big one, collaboration, working as public-private partnerships and the organizations to the business community. Great example we just heard from Glenn and team of ways that we're doing that. So we're going to try to digest these key takeaways into some things to create some action items, and for those in the elected officials to give you guys some things to work with and to work on. So thank you for your time today. Thanks for staying a little bit over. We appreciate it very much. Hope you found it informative. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.